The original stone of black sand can even bet on the rise, and it's a big rise. It's luck it's strong enough. Don't untie it, brother. I'll take 600,000 yuan as half gambling wool for this stone. 600,000? I'll pay 800,000. I'll take this half wool. All of a sudden, the scene, the noise everywhere, surrounded by a group of jade merchants, one after another show excited color, yelling to Tian. You should know that although Yudu is an important city rich in jade in China, and produces the best product of white suede jade, most of the jade materials are in fact of ordinary quality, while the best jade is rare. Although Tian's black sandstone is not suede jade, nor sapphire, but a second-class sapphire, from the perspective of jade powder, it is full of oil and the waterhead is very moist, so it has definitely touched the edge of the jade, which is the heart of those guests who like sapphire. What's more, the black sandstone itself is the size of a basketball. In addition, as soon as the cutting machine rubs against the shell, it turns green, which means that there is a great chance that the stone is full of jade. Such a large piece of jade is more than enough, whether it's for bracelets or ornaments. Top-grade blue carp bracelets and jade ornaments, for some jade lovers, 1 or 2 million are just small money. Up. This guy can even bet on such a poor-looking stone. At this moment, Lu Feng listened to the noise of the crowd, and his face was hard to see. He had not seen this black sandstone, but he just looked at it for 2 times and thought that there was little possibility of jade in it, so he ruled it out directly. Can where wanna get this inside, not only have jade, and still be top-grade sapphire, even, still be full of jade? Brother, shall we continue to cut, or sell it as semi-gambling material? Su Sanwang is also in a good mood now. After half a day's observation with the stone, he asks Tian a question, and then says in a low voice, my suggestion is to sell it for 800,000 now and make 80 times as much money. That's okay. Although the performance of this black sandstone is very good, it is suspected to be full of jade. But as the saying goes, it's hard for immortals to break inch jade. Who knows, is there jade under this layer? In Yudu these years, Su Sanwang has seen so many things that he performed very well at the beginning, but continued to do everything and collapsed. In his opinion, it's safe for him to make a change of 800,000 yuan now. We are gambling on jade. Since we are gambling on jade, we have to see the bottom of it. How can we sell it after a cut? If that's the case, I've chosen to open the skylight to make a semi-bet on the significance of wool. I'll take it out and sell it. It's not the same effect. When Lu Feng heard this, his eyes brightened and he looked at Tian and said in a deep voice. There are many strange things inside the original jade. No one can be sure whether this knife will go up and the next knife will go up. He doesn't believe that Tian's luck will be so good. He can really solve a piece of jade full of top-grade sapphire from a piece of black sandstone. As you wish. Hearing this, Tian raised his eyebrows and laughed, then looked at Su Sanwang and said, Brother Su, don't cut it, polish the stone. I remember, there is an old saying that grinding is healthier. We may be able to increase more in this grinding. Su Sanwang hesitated for a moment, but he also understood that when gambling on jade, there was no rule of selling half of it. Although he was not reconciled, he replaced the cutting machine with a grinder and began to polish the original stone. Salad. With his skillful movements, the stone powder rustles down, and the noisy crowd quiets down. Everyone nervously looks at the stone in Su Sanwang's hand, for fear that breathing a little louder will affect his operation and performance. Up. It's up again, my mother. Such a thin stone skin, such a large piece of sapphire, motherfucker, isn't this the stone of quick watermelon, full of jade flesh? A moment later, with the debris flying down, large tracts of oily sapphire show their true appearance. The basketball-sized sapphire ball looks like a peeled watermelon. It's going up. Especially when Su Sanwang scooped up the water, splashed it on the jade ball, and then took a strong light flashlight to shine on the jade ball. Along the jade ball, immediately there were a lot of green light diffused, a little bright, clear, even without any impurities. All this shows one thing, this black sandstone is indeed a full of jade stone, hidden in its ugly shell, is a moist heart. 3 million. Brother, please sell me this jade. I have a guest here. I want a jade ornament. 3 million? Go and play with your guest. Such a big jade ball, 3 million want to buy, you are dreaming. 5 million hee, 5 million? Your abacus is really good. I'll give you 6 million. After a short shock, the jade merchants in the field began to bid frantically. This kind of sapphire, full of oil and moistening waterhead, is quite rare, not to mention the size of a basketball. Just as those people thought before, this kind of jade material is overqualified for making bracelets. The best way is to find a jade carving master and carve it into ornaments, so as to make the best use of it. In the same way, it can double its wealth. After the carving is completed, even if the price is put into tens of millions of levels, it is not impossible. A cry, let Lu Feng's face, instant ugly almost become the bottom of the pot, the heart of the only trace of hope, at this moment, also disappear. He thought that it was possible for Manu to break the original stone in the next grinding, but he didn't expect that the final result was quite different from what he thought. The original stone with extremely poor quality, after being washed out of lead, had an inner value more precious than gold. This is no exaggeration. Jade of this quality is more precious than gold of equal weight. Brother Yi, it's the first time I've seen Manu who has been understanding jade for so many years and has such a good appearance. This sapphire ball, 6 million is a suitable price. Congratulations, 10,000 is 6 million, 600 times more than that, and at this time, Su Sanwang is toward Yi Tian arch hand, full face praise way. 600 times higher. Although everyone in the stadium already knew that this was a big rise and that the value of the jade ball reached 6 million, at this moment, hearing Su Sanwang's words, I could not help but feel a strong sense of admiration. What is luck? It's called luck. Thank you, thank you. Yi Tian hears the sound, nods with a smile, and then boasts to Lu Feng to play with the taste. The jade worth 6 million yuan was sold for 10,000 yuan. I really don't know gold inlaid with jade. Tut tut, if it's on me, I'll regret it. With one sound and one sentence, everyone in the room couldn't help looking at Lu Feng and making fun of him. Don't your Lu family like to cheat and entrap people? Now, your low-price stones are in the hands of others, turning waste into treasure and making blood. It's only 6 million. We don't need to be so proud. Let's look down again. Lu Feng's lips moved for a long time. After leaving a sentence coldly, he nodded to the master Jiu and asked him to continue to Jiu. Although Yi Tian's hand soared, he didn't believe that his good luck could continue like this with the performance of the original stones in Yi Tian's hand. 6 million, it seems a lot, but I still have a lot of stones in my hand, so I still have the hope to defeat Yi Tian. Forget it? How can I remember that some people said they would eat the stone skin if it could rise? But at this time, Yi Tian looked at Lu Feng playfully, light way. Yes, we all heard it. What's the matter? Is Lu Jiafeng Xiao, who is famous in Yudu, planning to play a trick and repent? To be a man, you have to be true to your word. Do the people of the Lu family engage in business fraud, and they are not honest? When Yi Tian's words fell, the jade merchants and gamblers around him also watched the excitement one by one. They didn't think it was too big. They clamored to make Lu Feng obey. Lu Feng is furious when he hears the speech. He looks at the people around him coldly. His eyes are burning. He wants to burn them to ashes. What is his status? How can he do such a humiliating thing? However, he also understood that if he did not do so, the reputation of the Lu family would be damaged again, and his prestige would decline day by day. Similarly, he would become a laughingstock of Yudu. But even if he understood these, how could he swallow these hard-to-swallow stone skin into his stomach? Don't you want to swallow it? At this time, Yi Tian looked at Lu Feng, raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, in this case, why don't we add a bet and play something bigger? This time, I'll let you go first. Let's decide the outcome with the whole game. The loser will eat all the stone skins? If anyone dares to repent, the other party will help him eat. How about you dare to bet? Brother Yi. When Su Sanwang heard Yi Tian's words, he quickly shook his head slightly toward him and motioned him not to do so. Although, Yi Tian's hand is really up, but no one can guarantee his luck. Maybe this hand will go up, and then it will collapse? After all, judging from the quality of the original stones, Yi Tian's choice of the original stones is far behind Lu Feng's choice of the original stones. This kind of gambling, in Su Sanwang's view, even if it is not 10 gambles and 9 losses, there is a 78% chance of losing. Is it hard to be? At that time, Yi naively ate these stone skins? Little brother, I'll take it as soon as it's good. I can't take this gamble. Yes, let him eat the stone now. Why wait until later? As soon as Yi Tian's words fall, the jade merchants and gamblers around him also say something to Yi Tian, hoping that he can change his decision. What, dare you? But it's a pity that Yi Tian doesn't seem to hear the dissuasion of these people. He still looks at Lu Feng with a smile and says faintly, "What do you dare to do? If anyone loses, he will eat all the stone peels from the gambling. If anyone dares to refuse, the other side will even put them in his mouth." Lu Feng is worried that he can't find the steps. At this moment, hearing Yi Tian's words, he immediately laughs. Although he did lose this one, and the gap was as big as 5.2 million, he was confident that he would reverse the situation in the next. He doesn't believe that Yi Tian's choice of the raw stones of rubbish phase can surpass those in his own hands. It's a deal. Let's be witnesses. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and gave a faint smile. Looking at the people around him, he said in a loud voice. Hearing the speech, they nodded, but in their hearts, they sighed. In their view, Yi Tian's move now, I'm afraid, is to win just after that, too excited, PAC don't know who he is, some overjoyed. Otherwise, how can he do this kind of thing that he doesn't know to stop when it's good, and he's so irrational? Wait and see. Lu Feng smiles confidently, then says in a deep voice to Master Xiaoyu, "Go on, let him have a look, what is real strength?" After hearing this, Master Xiaoyu immediately picked up the cutting machine and began to divide the original stone. Click click. In a flash, the sound of stone flying apart rang through the field. Brother Su, let's start, this time, solve this problem. At the same time, Yi Tian glanced at Su Sanwang, then pointed to the fake stone of the skylight and said, I think this stone can be cut in this direction. I have a premonition that there will be a surprise waiting for us. A hunch? When Lu Feng heard Yi Tian's words, he immediately sneered. In the jade gambling field of Yudu, the word premonition was the most heard by everyone. How many people have a premonition that the original stone they choose will be able to gamble on the rise, but they lose everything? As a member of the Lu family, he received the most instruction from childhood to adulthood, never believe the so-called premonition. Ku ding. At this time, with the high-speed operation of the cutting machine, the stone Lu Feng selected was divided into 2 parts, and the cut area was white and miserable, which was even cleaner than his face. Broken. When people saw this scene, they immediately sighed, and their faces were complicated. Although they are eager for Lu Feng to break down under the current situation, their appearance is so good, and it is the original stone chosen by Lu's children. After the solution, it is empty, but it can also show how low and difficult the probability of gambling on the rise is. Damn it, seeing this, Lu Feng clenched his fist and his face became gloomy. He had great expectations for this stone, and thought that the performance inside should be good, but he didn't expect that, but he was still doomed. Immediately after, he turned his head and looked towards Yi Tian. He wanted to see what would happen to the original stone Yi Tian chose. Ku ding. Almost at the same moment, Yi Tian's original stone, under the operation of the cutting machine, was divided into 2 parts. This is. But at the moment when it was divided into 2 parts, everyone immediately saw that along the left side of the cutting surface, there was a large piece of bright red. That kind of red, incomparably rich, looked like a pool of blood, rich, flexible, and incomparably moist. This scene let the field, the moment, into the ultimate quiet. Blood jade. Lying trough, it's blood jade god, it's up. Another surge. It's the first time I've seen such a pure and rich blood jade. Look at the cutting surface of the original stone. This knife is actually rubbing the edge of the blood jade. There is no damage, just let it show. It's amazing. After a breath, the whole audience immediately became a sensation, and all the people crowded to the front of the original stone. The color of shock and covet in their eyes was strong to the point of no more. Jade is not only green and white, but also has many colors, such as red, yellow, black, blue and so on. However, most variegated jade is worthless. The reason is very simple, because the color of those variegated jade is not pure enough. But if it is rich and clear color of variegated jade, it is not the same, its value is not inferior to the best jade, or even more expensive. And the blood jade that Tian solved at the moment is clear and rich in color, without any impurity, which is absolutely the best. Keep cutting. At this time, Tian nodded slightly to Su Sanwang, indicating that he would continue to solve jade. Click. Click. Click a few knives down. In an instant, there were 3 more jade boards in the field, each as thick as a book with millions of words, and about 10 centimeters long. What's more amazing is that the color of these 3 jade plates are all the same, bright red as blood and lustrous. When the flashlight shines on them, there are even halos flowing. There is no doubt that although these 3 jade plates are not as huge as jade balls, they are worth more than 10 million. Big rise. Big rise. This luck is so strong that it's impossible to find a blood jade worth tens of millions of yuan. Sure, hahaha, this is life. Some people have no insight and can't recognize the treasure. They think it's waste and cheat, but they give the treasure to others by mistake. Life. This is life. No, it's retribution. Ha ha ha. A crowd of jade merchants and gamblers, watching this scene, looking at Lu Feng, the corners of their mouths are full of playful color. The Lu family thought that this was a piece of waste material, and deliberately tried to cheat on it. But who could have thought that there was a treasure worth tens of millions hidden in the original stone, and now it was given away by Lu Feng? All this, it is a kind of natural circulation, the feeling of retribution. 16 million. Are you ready to eat the stone skin? At this time, Tian looked at the 3 pieces of scarlet jade with a dull expression. His eyes trembled and envied, and Lu Feng, who had reached the point of no more, played with each word. It's just. Lu Feng hears the sound, and then returns to his senses. He clenches his teeth fiercely. After waking up from the tremor, he looks at Tian and sneers twice. But what? Is that 16 million? I don't know. There are so many people who gamble on jade. How many people have worked out 16 million pieces of jade and bought 2 pieces of raw stones at my price? But without waiting for Lu Feng to finish, Tian looked at him and said faintly. A word fell, Lu Feng to the mouth, immediately blocked back to the stomach inside. It's true that although there are many people gambling on jade in Yudu, they lose 9 out of 10 bets. Moreover, the so-called big rise is only 1 million at most. There are only a few tens of millions of people gambling on jade. I've been in Yudu for so many years, and I've only seen 2 or 3 of them. If such a big rise is just idle, then, are not all the jade gamblers in Yudu billionaires? I've also seen the people of the Lu family gamble on jade, but what they gamble on is only 1 million levels at most. 10 million levels, I haven't seen yet. At this time, the jade merchants and gamblers around, you and I, one by one, said that it was not easy for Tianning to gamble so much. Go on. I'll let you know what real strength is. Lu Feng listens to this sentence, his eyes are as cold as ice, and he stares at Tian. After gritting his teeth, he signals his master Xiaoyu to continue. Although Tian has made great achievements this time, he believes that with the appearance of these original jades he has chosen, he will surely have the hope of bringing the situation back. Brother Su, let's continue. I have a hunch that there will be good things in these pieces. Seeing this, Tian nodded slightly to Su Sanwang, and then made a few oblique strokes towards the original stones on the ground. Click click. A word fell. In an instant, the field will be covered by the sound of cutting machine. At this moment, the huge exhibition hall is full of people. However, everyone is quiet. No one makes a sound. Holding his breath, he nervously looks at the original stones. He wants to see whether Tian or Lu Feng is better. Lu Feng took a few deep breaths and closed his eyes. At this moment, he did not dare to see the result again. Up. It's going up. A moment later, a loud noise suddenly rang out. Hearing this sound, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked at his original jade. But as far as his eyes could see, what he saw flying out along the cutting gear was still white stone powder.
The significance of this situation is very clear, that is, the original stone here did not solve the jade. And if he is not here gambling up, then the floor gambling up, no doubt, of course, Tian is no doubt.
Up damn, it's going up again.
When his eyes fell on Tian's original jade, he immediately saw that the piece of jade was just an ordinary one. At this moment, it was the same white powder, but the powder was very moist and oily.
Obviously, it was cut into white jade. You white jade.
Although it's not the best jade, it's not bad, at least 1 million.
This is a big increase. Zenima's anti-heaven, the quality of such a general stone, can even solve a piece up a piece, even the Jade Emperor is not so evil? Damn, why do I gamble on jade? It's always a whiteboard. People solve it. It's such a good performance.
God, you are unfair to me at this moment. The crowd boiling, all people look at Tian's eyes, are full of envy. There is a saying that no matter it is good or bad, it will not be more than 3 times.
But on Tian's side, the saying seems to be out of order. It's easy.
The 3 stones have gone up 3 times, and they all belong to the million level.
This kind of fortune cannot but be admired and admired by people. Green. We're green, too.
At this time, Lu Feng's master Xiaoyu also let out an excited low roar.
Hearing this, they immediately looked at Lu Feng's original stone.
As far as they could see, they immediately saw many green jade powder flying out.
I thought it was a wonderful thing, just a common dry jade. It's a good idea to take out the dry jade and yell. Are the people of the Lu family so knowledgeable? Damn, I didn't expect that one day I should see someone figure out Gonqingyu. I don't think it's anything. It's just idle time.
With the sound of clattering, the 2 stones separated, revealing the inner. The people in the room immediately shook their heads, disdain and disdain.
Dry blue jade is the opposite of oil jade.
This kind of jade has less water head and oil, and is dry and astringent. Basically, this kind of jade will not be used for bracelets and pendants, but will be used for ornaments of some handicrafts, and its value is generally in the range of 1,000,000. Lu Feng's original stone is not small. Such a large piece of dry sapphire is worth about 400,000 or 500,000. Although it is not a big gamble to put the dry sapphire worth 4.5 million yuan in Jiayu's normal Jiayu market, Tian's 3 successive surges have raised the level to 1 million. In this case, Lu Feng's gambling rise is really not in the eyes of the public.
You.
Lu Feng listened to the words of Schadenfreude, his face was white with anger.
He was born in the Lu family. When he was in Yudu, he never received such cold treatment and ridicule. This time, let's break this one. I want you to understand.
In a rage, Lu Feng kicks heavily at a nearby stone.
Then he looks at Tian and says in a deep voice. Don't you just let me see your real strength? Over and over again, I'm going to recite. Haven't you got your real strength yet? But don't tell me that your real strength is to fool people with this kind of 400,000 or 500,000 jade leaf day. Here's a sound, disdain of shrug a shoulder, light way. You. Lu Feng's face is cold, and his teeth are itching. He wants to rush up to Tian and tear him to pieces. This time, and for the last time, I will let you understand what is real strength. But in the end, he restrained his anger. After a cold hum, he said to Master Jiayu, wipe first, then solve. He has absolute confidence in his original stone, which opens a skylight and presents dry white jade. However, according to the jade identification method inherited by the Lu family, he believes that after the skylight of this original stone, there is a great probability that there will be oil white jade and suet white jade. Although Tian's gambling has increased by 16 million before, he is confident that with the help of this stone, he can turn the tables against the wind and turn the world around. The original stone has a very good appearance. It's the base of dry white jade. There's a high probability of oil white jade in it. Maybe there will be mutton fat jade. This one may turn the tide and turn the situation upside down. I have to say that the Lu family's eyesight is very good. At first glance, the appearance of the original stone looks good, but the more careful it is, the more impressive it is. It's just like that kind of temperament beauty. At first glance, it seems very common, but the more you contact with it, the longer you look at it, the more you will find it.
It's the ultimate product. After hearing Lu Feng's words full of confidence, the people around him stared at the original stone and looked at it a little, and then they sighed. Words fall at the same time, their eyes, is to bet on the next leaf day.
They really want to know what method Tian plans to use to deal with the situation after Lu Feng takes out such a piece of excellent raw stone that can strongly turn the situation around. This is the stone you pressed on the bottom of the box? When Tian heard these words, he looked at Lu Feng with a playful smile and said faintly, "In this case, I'll take out my favorite stone and fight a challenge with you." Tian's favorite raw stone?
The words fell, and the faces of the people around him immediately showed a strong color of curiosity. He wanted to know which one of the stones Tian preferred most, and he thought that the stone could have the ability to fight with Lu Feng. As far as they can see, none of Tian's original stones can be compared with Lu Feng's.
That's it. At this time, Tian pointed to a stone on the ground and said with a smile, "I'll go. What the hell, am I hallucinating? This is his favorite stone? Brother, if you don't bring such a piece of stone, how can you compare it with Lu Feng's? Honeycomb skin stone is the worst stone. Even if you win 3 times, you can't be so rampant." They followed Tian's hand. When they saw that what he pointed to was the honeycomb stone, they were shocked.
You know, there is no doubt that honeycomb skin is the most inferior of all kinds of original stones. The possibility that there is jade in it is 1 in 10,000, which is regarded as a compliment.
It should be said that it is 1 in a billion.
And Lu Feng's jade can definitely be placed in the highest rank in terms of appearance. They really don't understand that what Tian is most optimistic about is such a piece of the most rubbish stone. Similarly, they really don't understand why Tian thinks that this piece of garbage stone can surpass Lu Feng's. "Brother Su, I have a hunch that this stone is also very good.
Let's not cut it, but wipe it bit by bit." But strangely, Tian listened to the noise, but his face was calm, and even told Su Sanwang with a smile.
As soon as this sentence came out, everyone was speechless immediately. Honeycomb skin stone, under normal circumstances, take the cutting machine for cutting, people will feel that the loss of gear. But now Tian is very good, not only does he not cut it, but he has to polish it.
"What can I polish this kind of thing? Brother Yi." Su Sanwang is also sad, want to persuade Tian 2 words. "Brother Su, believe me."
Tian doesn't wait for Su Sanwang to finish his speech, so he interrupts him, and then says with a smile.
Hearing this, Su Sanwang sighed and nodded. "Haha, let's go." Seeing this, Lu Feng takes a mocking look at Tian, and then says in a deep voice to the Ju master beside him, "Salad, salad." In a flash, the sound of the grinder rings slowly, gently rubbing the edge of the skylight to see if there is jade in it. The huge exhibition hall is quiet now. Everyone holds their breath and wants to see if Lu Feng, the original stone with excellent appearance, can solve a piece of oil white jade with excellent quality or even better tallow jade as expected. Stop. The grinder just polished for a moment. Lu Feng raised his hand to stop, followed, carefully picked up a bowl of water, sprinkled on the grinding machine, rubbed out of the area. "You white jade. It's going up. This luck, really good." Skylight expansion, dry white jade into oil white jade. The result is really to reverse it? I have to say that the people of the Lu family really have 2 brushes. Just such a piece of white jade will make the value of this stone increase by 1 million. When you see the area around the skylight, it turns out to be a greasy white again. And when the indoor light shines with a light of oil, the people around you immediately take out air conditioning. When they look at Lu Feng's eyes, there is envy and even more admiration. Although the fraud of the Lu family is tiresome, Lu Feng's performance at the moment still shows that the inheritance of the Lu family for hundreds of years has some foundation. At least, most of the jade gamblers can't see the original stone's good quality, and dare not conclude that its skylight can be expanded, and the jade's nature will change from dry white jade to oil white jade, and its price will rise. Lu Feng listened to this voice, his face immediately showed some satisfaction. Immediately, looking to Tian, "Want to see this guy see his extraordinary, what expression will show?" I said, "Lu Dashao, can you hurry up? I'm almost asleep after such a long time." You should seize the time and speed up. If you want to rub, you should rub and you should cut. I don't see that I, as well as 110 people, are waiting for you. To be a man, you need to have some time, viewpoint and quality. Lu Feng's vision just swept past, Tian then hit a big yawn, a wave of hand full face impatiently, light way. Damn it, Lu Feng heard this, heart immediately scolded a voice. Let me hit you in the face with the final result and reality. Immediately after that, Lu Feng took a deep breath and thought to himself, after stabilizing his mind, he picked up a piece of chalk and drew a mark on the stone. Then he nodded to Master Xiaoyu and said in a deep voice, since some people can't wait to lose, we'll help them. Click click. In a flash, the huge cutting sound suddenly sounded, the gear rapidly rotated, and brought up pieces of powder like white fog. Something's wrong. Why is the oil gone? Yes, how to go down? The quality is poor, and there is no oil white jade powder? However, after cutting the gear just a little bit down, the noise in the field suddenly came forth, and everyone looked at the original stone and couldn't believe it. At the beginning of gear cutting, a lot of stone powder flying out was still oily, but those stone powder was just a flash in the pan and became the miserable white of quartz powder. How could this be this scene, people still like this, not to mention Lu Feng, his face smile, instant solidification, can't believe looking at the stone. Click. Almost at the same time, in the harsh sound of gear rotation, the half stone with the skylight opened was divided into two. Alas! This scene, a huge sigh, immediately spread out along the crowd in the field, and Lu Feng, not only smile solidification, face can't believe, but also to the point of no more, staring at the stone flat section, fingers, at this moment, are constantly trembling. On the huge section, except for a thin layer of jade on the surface, all of them are pale quartz. Moreover, the grains of quartz are extremely rough with large voids. This is an extremely bad situation, because the larger the grain size of quartz crystal, the larger the gap, which means that the internal structure of the original stone is more loose. Even if it is cut towards other areas, the possibility of jade will be extremely low. How could that be? How could that be? Lu Feng's body trembled wildly, his lips moved back and forth, and his eyes were full of angry blood, like questioning, like asking himself, murmuring endlessly. At this moment, he was really angry and unwilling to go to the extreme. He thinks that under the skylight of dry white jade, there will probably be oil white jade, or even the best mutton fat jade. But where did he expect that, let alone oil white jade and mutton fat jade? There will be no dry white jade, only full of white quartz crystals. Is this the jade that can't be broken by immortals? Thank you, Feng Xiao. I've been taught. At this time, Tian seems to bow his hand to Lu Feng with a solemn face, laughing and chanting. You. When Lu Feng heard this, he felt a sharp pain on his cheek. He wanted to open his mouth, but he couldn't say a word. Then he suddenly raised his foot, kicked the master who helped him solve the jade to the side, reached out and picked up the cutting machine, and cut off the two stones which were divided into two parts. It's a pity that the stone, which is divided into 4 pieces, is still as white as paper, and no jade shadow can be seen obviously. This knife, hell! How could that be? After a long time, Lu Feng left the cutting machine in his hand with a dejected face, staring at the original stone in front of him. This piece of jade with excellent appearance and high expectation from him is just a piece of jade of palm size on the surface of the original stone. What's more, most of it is the most worthless dry white jade. In a word, the price of this raw stone, not to mention the 10 million level he expected, even the 100,000 level he stayed in before could not reach, or even 10,000 level. If you sell it, you can sell it at most. It's very good. This huge gap made Lu Feng feel like he fell from heaven to hell in an instant. But he knew that gambling on jade was so cruel that there was no possibility of turning it around. No matter how much anger and reluctance he had in his heart, he could only admit it. The crowd in the hall also sighed. Although they extremely despised the fraud of the Lu family, the raw stone with such a good appearance cut out such a tragic result. They could not help but let people sigh and feel sorry for the day when they broke down. Among all the people, Tian is the only one with a calm look on his face. Although the performance of the original stone is very good, it can be seen from the sky. From the beginning, he knew that although the skylight on the outside of the original stone was beautiful, it was empty inside. It was a silver pewter spear head. He could not see it in the middle, and he would regret it if he bought it. The original stone with such good appearance can only solve such a small piece of jade. There is really no one with such strength.
At least, I can't do this kind of person who can solve the beautiful jade in the rubbish phase stone.
Feng Xiao, it's really a good skill.
Yi Tian glanced at Lu Feng, then thumbed up, tut-tut's praise.
If you want to be angry, you will be angry. You.
Hearing this, Lu Feng looks at Yi Tian angrily. In his eyes, he is about to burst out fire.
I suddenly remembered one thing.
You Lu family don't like to use the skylight most. The skylight of this original stone can't be installed by your own family.
As a result, because the technology of counterfeiting is so skillful that even Feng Xiao, the eldest son of Lu family, has been concealed?
But without waiting for his words to fall, Yi Tian suddenly picks his eyebrows and says with a smile.
I'll go. Don't say it. It's really possible. The Lu family likes to work on the skylight of the original stone.
The skylight of the original stone looks very good.
Maybe it's Lu Feng who mistook his fake original stone for the best one?
Ha ha ha, if that's the case, it's lifting a stone and hitting yourself in the foot, but cleverness is mistaken by cleverness.
I used the fake skylight to entrap people. As a result, I was fooled by the skylight. It's really a day of glory, and the retribution is not good.
As soon as Yi Tian's words came out, the eyes of the people around him immediately brightened, and they all felt that the possibility of Yi Tian's words was really very high. It was uncertain that Lu Feng was clever, but he was mistakenly chosen a piece of original stone for his own fraud, which led to the present result.
Am I really fooled by my own fake technology?
Let alone these people, even Lu Feng himself, could not help but start to mutter when he heard this, and then turned to look at Lu Pengzi. However, as far as he could see, he shook his head repeatedly, indicating that the stone was not in the ranks of fraud.
Brother Su, let's start.
People show off their skills and let us understand what is called immortal hard to break inch jade and what is called a knife hell.
Let's also show you what is called luck. No one can stop it.
By the way, let's have a sense of what a knife paradise is. Yi Tian looks at Lu Fenglian's expression and nods to Su Sanwang, asking him to polish.
Good.
Hearing the sound, Su Sanwang nodded, and then began to take out the grinder to polish the honeycomb skin stone in his hand.
Haha, it's a joke that such a broken stone should be polished.
Lu Feng looked at this scene, his heart is full of unwilling, but his face shows the color of disdain, shrugged, coldly, and then raised his head with disdain. In his mind, his piece of raw stone, the appearance is so good, there is nothing in it. Yi Tian, such a piece of garbage honeycomb skin raw stone, what can be polished out? I'm afraid, in addition to quartz crystal powder, it's still stone powder.
I'm going to.
But almost at the same moment when he raised his head, he immediately heard the noise coming from the crowd around him.
What happened? Can you bet on the price of honeycomb skin and stone?
When Lu Feng heard the sound, he looked stagnant and hurriedly lowered his head to look at the honeycomb stone that was being polished by Yi Tian.
This is?
As far as his eyes could reach, he immediately saw that along the skylight polished by the grinder on the honeycomb raw stone, there was a touch of ying run, like snow, but more delicate and oily, like lanolin, but more clear and flexible white. This kind of whiteness is very familiar to him who was born in the Lu family. To be exact, it is not only him, but also all jade merchants and gamblers in Yudu are familiar with this color and luster, and they even have the ultimate desire. Because, in this world, this kind of color and oily degree only belongs to one kind of jade, which is the best of all the jade in the jade capital.
White jade.
Honeycomb skin stone, even wipe out the white jade.
God, am I dazed and hallucinating?
Oh, my God, the honeycomb skin stone has wiped out the skylight of white jade. I swear, from today on, I'll buy all the beehive skins and stones in the market.
If I solve them one by one, I won't believe it. God won't care for me once. This honeycomb skin stone is so big. If there is lanolin jade in it, how big is it?
At the same time, the crowd was almost crazy.
Everyone was shocked and looked at the stone in front of him.
His heart was beating wildly. Along with the coveting and yearning color in his eyes, he was almost ready to turn into a raging flame, engulfing Yi Tian. The beauty of mutton fat is what all the jade gamblers in Yudu were looking forward to when they solved the problem of jade, and there is no one. How many jade gamblers, in order to get a piece of suede jade, went to buy a piece of original stone with excellent appearance, but now, Tian actually wiped out the skylight of suede jade from a piece of honeycomb skin original stone.
How amazing and rebellious the luck should be. Brother Su, keep wiping.
At this time, Tian looked at Su Sanwang and said with a smile. Su Sanwang looked at Tian in a daze, then quickly nodded, operated the grinder, and continued to polish.
At this moment, his heart inexplicably gave birth to a ridiculous to the extreme, but also very real feeling, that is, as if Tian already knew what kind of jade in these original stones, and even where the jade was, he knew all about it. Otherwise, how could he point to where he could cut the jade from there? No. Even if the original stone of such rubbish phase can appear suede jade, it will break the sky at most. There can't be more. Seeing this, Lu Feng prayed in his heart, hoping to see large pieces of quartz crystal as white as paper next time. Click click. But at this time, with large pieces of stone powder Susu fall, more and more Ingran white, gradually show in front of everyone. Ingran white, in the light, such as a layer of fog rising, gorgeous and moist, graceful to the extreme. This fog is the unique treasure of the best jade. It is obvious that this honeycomb skin stone, which has been despised by all, is also a full jade stone, and an amazing full jade mutton fat jade. Under its ugly appearance, which is despised by all people, what it hides is a pure heart with a value of hundreds of millions. Manu original stone, the best Lanji jade. For solutions in 4 rises.
It's more and more fierce every time, and nothing happens more than 3 times.
It's all up 4 times. What kind of luck should it be? I don't know what to say.
Maybe there is such a kind of person in this world who was born to annoy others. Looking at the light, the sheepskin white jade ball shining in the light, the expression of the people in the field, at this moment, has become more complex than ever. Looking at Yi Tian's eyes, he is full of envy and admiration. They have been in Yudu for many years, and have seen many jade gamblers, but they have never seen one like Yi Tian, who can solve a precious piece of suet jade from a honeycomb skin stone that is not well behaved to the extreme and is not favored by everyone, and is still so big. Such a large stone, whether it is carved ornaments, bracelets, do anything, is absolutely more than enough, its value, simply incalculable.
Lying trough.
Especially the jade merchant who sold this honeycomb skin stone to Yi Tian before, at this moment, he felt like crying without tears. Such a good raw stone, he sold it to Yi Tian for only 200 yuan, and that's all. He used it as a stepping stone and put it under the Stone King. You know, although the Stone King's performance is not bad, according to the current performance, even if it is bought back, it will rise by 30 million to 40 million at most, and this is also the case of bad luck. This huge gap, at this moment, how can he not regret it? However, he also knew that he could not blame anyone for this matter. If he wanted to blame it, he could only blame his own eyesight. If he had eyes, he could not recognize gold and jade.
80 million. I'll take it. Mr. Yi, please give it up.
Let others give up their love for a piece of high-quality lanolin jade when it's 80 million yuan.
You can say that shamelessly. I'll give you 100 million yuan. We can meet but can't ask for it, not to mention that it's still such a big one. The price of 100 million is good, but I need it more. I'm willing to pay 110 million. I hope you can give up your love, Mr. Yi. I know that this sum of money is nothing to you, Mr. Yi. But for the sake of my love for jade, please give it up. After a short period of noise, a jade merchant strides forward and surrounds Yi Tian. He is extremely excited and gives a crazy offer. You know, lanolin jade is the king of jade. It's extremely rare. It's impossible to get a piece out of 100,000 pieces of raw stones, especially large pieces of lanolin jade. Many jade merchants and jade gamblers have been in Yudu for so many years, and they have never seen such a large piece of lanolin jade. Lanji Meiyu. He even got a piece of suede jade from the honeycomb skin. Lu Feng is dull now. He is staring at Yi Tian, and his cheeks are full of disbelief. He really can't understand why Yi Tian is so lucky to be able to solve the best product of lanolin jade from such a poor-looking raw stone. What's more, the crazy price increase is not the price increase of 100,000 million level, but the madness measured directly by 10 million level. Even though he was born in the Lu family, it is the first time that he saw such a crazy picture.
As if, in these people's eyes, or in front of this suede jade, money is no longer money. But he knew that if he was not gambling on jade with Yi Tian, but a spectator, then he would be one of these competitors. This is because jade of this grade can be passed on as a family heirloom. After all, in China, there is a saying that gold is valuable and jade is priceless.
I'm really sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to stay for myself.
Yi Tian listened to the noise, arched his hands to the crowd and said with a smile.
This kind of suede jade has excellent appearance. Although it's not Lingyu, it can be made into ornaments and so on. It must be very beautiful.
He wanted to leave this piece of lanolin jade. When Ningyao woke up, he made it into jewelry and gave it to her, as well as the girls around her.
It's a pity.
Hearing this, the jade merchant who had been competing for the most fierce immediately sighed, and his eyes were full of reluctance, but he was not surprised by the result. After all, Yi Tian, with a fortune of 100 billion yuan, is not the kind of owner who is short of money at all. Such a top-quality jade, which is handmade, must be kept by himself.
Now, is it necessary to continue the competition? How can you compare with me?
At this time, Yi Tian glanced at Lu Feng and said with a playful light.
As soon as the suet comes out, who will fight?
The result of this bet on jade has been known. This suede jade is worth 110 million, plus the previous 16 million, that is nearly 130 million.
What's more than that? Feng Xiao, admit defeat.
If you go on solving it, there will be no change in the result.
Why shame yourself?
When Yi Tian's words fall, the jade merchants and gamblers around him immediately cast their eyes on Lu Feng to play with the taste.
Aye.
Lu Feng listened to this voice, sentence by sentence. The anger and reluctance in his heart had reached the point of no more. But he knew that what these people said was true. Even if he continued to stick to it, there would be no change in the result. How could the best white jade with a value of hundreds of millions of dollars be solved so easily? And his remaining pieces of raw stones were very common.
I don't believe it, I will lose.
The winner must be me, but in the end, Lu Feng suddenly bit his teeth, his eyes showing the color of perseverance, followed closely, a copy of the cutting machine on the ground, toward his only remaining stones cut, to fight hard, bet on luck, to see if he has the hope of turning over.
Click click.
But it's a pity that after the cutting machine fell on the original stones, although they were cut into pieces, the best piece presented in it was only a half basketball-sized sapphire.
Although the oil sapphire is not bad, it has no comparability with Yi Tian's best suede jade. How could that be? Why is that?
Lu Feng looked at the broken stones on the ground and felt that there were thousands of flies buzzing in his head at the moment. The world was spinning, and there were bursts of black in front of his eyes.
He couldn't accept such a result.
He has been inherited by the Lu family for 100 years. He thinks that the method of distinguishing jade is extremely good.
He should be able to win the game easily.
But he really didn't expect that Yi Tian's luck would be so good that he could even solve the super high-quality lanolin jade worth more than 100 million yuan, and he could solve it from a piece of garbage to the ultimate honeycomb skin stone.
Now, what else do you have to say? I'm willing to accept defeat. It's time to fulfill your promise and eat all these stone skins?
At this time, Yi Tian stepped forward, mouth with a bright smile, but the eyes cold, looking at Lu Feng, word by word, light way. When Lu Feng heard this, his body trembled. Especially when he saw the piles of small stones on the ground, and the sharp stone skin, his forehead suddenly floated a layer of cold sweat.
If you eat so many stone skins, it will definitely kill you. What? Don't you want to?
In that case, I can only help you according to our previous agreement. The leaf day hears a sound, eyebrow tip lightly a pick, light way of a word a meal.
I warn you, I'm from the Lu family. You'd better think about it before you want to do something.
Lu Feng stepped back involuntarily, but when he saw the mocking eyes on the faces of the people around him, he immediately felt a little embarrassed. Then he looked at Yi Tian, word by word, with a strong threat, and said in a cold voice.
Is it the style of the Lu family to resort to deception and break promises?
When Yi Tian heard Lu Feng's words, the smile on his face suddenly became more brilliant.
Immediately, he said, since you don't want to, I have to help you. Just in time, let me see if it's your Lu family who is the leader of the land, or my river-crossing dragon who is more horizontal. Wow! Almost at the same time when the words fall, Tian bends down and grabs a large handful of stone skin from the ground and pinches it in the palm of his hand. Looking at the posture, it is obvious that he intends to help Lu Feng swallow the stone skin in his mouth. You want to die, security guard? Go up and stop him for me. Lu Feng looked at Tian's action, the corner of his eyes twitched violently, followed closely, and waved his hand violently and loudly. Words fall down, along the crowd, immediately rushed out a few security guards, in front of Lu Feng, covetous looking at Tian, tone coldly, wait, boy, Fengxiao is just a joke with you, you were so serious, is not a joke? If you are wise, step back and don't embarrass yourself. People hear this, heart suddenly a lin, sigh at the same time, is some worry to the leaf sky. Although Tian has shown great wealth before, with assets of 100 billion yuan, he is definitely a man of talent. However, after all, this is the jade capital of the frontier and the world of the Lu family. These security guards may be in awe of Tian, but they still have to obey Lu Feng's life. Moreover, although Tian has just shown a good skill, there is a saying that 2 fists are hard to defeat 4 hands. No matter how strong Tian is, he is only one person. But there are 3 or 4 security guards. No matter how powerful Tian is, how can he be the opponent of so many people? Are you kidding? I'm sorry, I never joke with people. Especially don't joke about garbage. I advise you to know better and not to help tyranny, mix up with rubbish that you don't believe in and embarrass yourself. However, what those jade merchants and gamblers around didn't expect was that Tian didn't feel the threat of these security guards. He looked at the people in front of him calmly. Instead of fearing, he gave back what they had said. It seems that you are going to embarrass yourself. When the security guards heard Tian's words, their faces sank and they followed closely. The leading security guard winked at the other person beside him. Then they hit Tian's cheek and wanted to hit him. They knew how to write the word embarrassment. It's broken. When people see this scene, they can't help but take a breath. They just feel that they have seen the sad picture of Tian being beaten with blood and falling to the ground. What's more, all this adds a few points to their resentment towards the Lu family. These rubbish things are not only deceptive, but also untrustworthy. What's more irritating is that they not only refuse to accept defeat by gambling, but also cheat others by pretending that they are local leaders. Schwa! At the same time, the double fists fly. Tian does not dodge, does not grasp the stone skin that hand, like a fan fly, understatement of the swing. Bang click. In a flash, a blunt hand-in-hand sound sounded, followed by a scene that made everyone feel incredible. After the dull sound, there was a strange twist in the angle of the originally fierce arm. Obviously, the bone on the arm had been broken. Ah! Before the cold air from the people around them got into their throats, the 2 leading security guards, like broken kites, flew upside down and smashed heavily on the large and small stones. While they howled like pigs, there was more blood spilling from the corners of their mouths. Bang! 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 Immediately after that, a more unbelievable scene appeared. With a wave of his hand, Tian hit the 2 leading security guards and shook his body slightly. With a light hand, he waved 2 or 3 times. The remaining security guards, who were originally fierce, also flew upside down and fell heavily in the original stone pile, staggering and coughing up blood. Hiss! The appearance of this amazing scene made all the people in the room lose their minds for a moment. One by one, their eyes widened, their mouths widened, and they lost their minds for a while. Although everyone knows that Tian's skill is good, but I didn't expect that his skill is so strong that it's outrageous. If it's not for the bloody smell, plus the bitter howl, and seeing the progress of things, many people almost doubt that it's shooting a kung fu blockbuster. I tell you, I'm from the Lu family. If you dare to mess around, you can't leave Yudu upright. All the onlookers are still like this, not to mention Lu Feng, who was protected by these people. This horrible scene makes his body tremble like chaff. His lips move back and forth, threatening Tian. He wants to use the identity of a local snake to intimidate Tian. It's natural to accept defeat when you are in debt. If you don't want me to leave Yudu, you can have a try. I'll see. What's more, I also want to see if it's you who make it impossible for me to leave you Dukwai vertically, or I make it impossible for you to leave this venue vertically, fast. Yi Tian looks at Lu Feng, disdaining to smile.
Immediately, he steps forward and holds his neck with a shake of his hand. He follows him closely, and his 5 fingers make a slight effort.
With a click, Lu Feng's chin immediately breaks away from his cheek.
His mouth, which was closed to the best of his ability, can't help opening.
If you don't want to eat, I'll feed you enough.
Yi Tian smiles indifferently, and all the stone skins and stone powder in his other hand are put into Lu Feng's mouth. As soon as his magic power turns, Lu Feng's voice starts to swallowing the big and small stone skins and stone powder into his throat.
Cough cough.
The stone powder and the stone skin scratched his throat, which immediately made Lu Feng cough violently. But how sharp the stone skin was, when it touched the throat, it pierced it all. Along the mouth, there was a little blood, which all fell on the ground, dazzling.
Woo 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 woo. The stinging pain in his throat makes Lu Feng look miserable. He wants to beg, but he can't make a sound. He can only look at Yi Tian with his eyes and make a whimper, hoping that he can raise his hand and spare himself. Feng Xiao, aren't you arrogant? Why can't you stand such a little? Yi Tian looks at Lu Feng's appearance, raises eyebrows, smiles indifferently, and follows him closely. He grabs a handful of stone skin and stone powder from the ground and puts them into Lu Feng's mouth. In an instant, Lu Feng's mouth is like a spring, and the bright red blood gushes out of his mouth, dyeing the front of his clothes red. This bloody and terrifying scene made the eyes of the people around them jump wildly, petrified completely, and even had a dreamlike feeling. They couldn't believe their own eyes. Who is Lu Feng? That is the eldest son of the Lu family, the future successor. But this is the existence. Now Yi Tian is carrying it in his hand like a chicken, stuffing the pickled things like stone skin and stone powder into his mouth one by one. Such a picture, before Yi Tian appeared, is absolutely unimaginable. In the same way, no one would believe such a thing if they had not seen it with their own eyes. Poof! I don't know how long it's passed. Lu Feng suddenly spits out a hardened blood clot in his mouth. Then his body collapses and falls to the ground. He completely faints. Moreover, even after falling to the ground, along his mouth, blood is still more than extremely miserable. This scene has completely stunned everyone. They were shocked not only by Lu Feng's misery, but also by Yi Tian's courage. This river-crossing dragon is really strong and cruel. The so-called strong dragon doesn't press the local snake. It's really wrong. If it can't press the local snake, it's a strong dragon. Since it is a dragon, it should not be afraid of the local snake. At least, Brother Yi is definitely a real dragon. Looking at this scene, Su Sanwang can't help thinking of his conversation with Yi Tian on the train. He can't help thinking in his heart. Rubbish! At this time, Yi Tian glances at Lu Feng coldly, kicks him aside, turns to look at Su Sanwang, and says with a smile, "Brother Su, we still have so many stones left here. Continue to solve. I have a hunch that there are surprises waiting for us." Another hunch? When those jade merchants and gamblers around heard Yi Tian's words, they were almost crazy, and they had a strong expectation in their hearts. They really want to see if Yi Tian can continue to be brilliant after he gambles 4 times and gains nearly 10,000 times of increase, and the solved jade is as high as 130 million. Click. 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 Hearing the sound, Su Sanwang was also full of curiosity. After nodding to Yi Tian, he picked up the cutting machine and began to divide the remaining stones on the ground. Gear cut, a piece of stone in half, a large ing-run jade light, immediately appeared in front of everyone in the field. Clear green, beautiful white, rich black, a variety of colors, gorgeous, simply gorgeous to an amazing point can be called. Similarly, these gorgeous colors are not only gorgeous, but also mean that they are amazing wealth. According to their estimation, after gambling on jade for several times, Yi Tian's total value of jade has reached 200 million. Jiu, 2 small targets have been solved. If you didn't see such a thing with your own eyes, who can believe that it would be true? Up. It's up again. What kind of luck is this? How strong is it? It's incredible, it's incredible.
I've been in Yundu for so many years, and I've never seen such a crazy bet on jade.
I'm so lucky. Before, I didn't believe that there were people who were born to be envied, but today, I really believe it.
In an instant, all the people in the room were almost crazy. Looking at the cut stones piled up on the ground, they lost their voice and exclaimed. And everyone looks at Yi Tian's eyes. In addition to the strong envy, there is more shock and admiration. None of them has ever seen such an amazing picture of gambling on jade in Yudu, which almost makes many people feel that whether Yi Tian has a pair of perspective eyes, he can clearly see the performance in the original stone. However, as the saying goes, it's hard for immortals to distinguish inch jade.
Even if it's stone skin that can't be penetrated by X-ray, how can it be seen through? However, these people don't know that their conjecture is actually infinitely close to the truth. Yi Tian's eyes are not X-ray machines, but they are more powerful than X-ray machines.
No matter what kind of raw stone it is, and no matter how thick the shell is, as long as the source eye shines through, everything inside will fall into the eye.
I'm flattered.
In my opinion, it's mainly because of Brother Su's good fortune.
The name of Su Sanwang really deserves its reputation. Dao Dao Jianwang. Hearing the sound, Yi Tian waved his hand and looked at the crowd and said with a smile. Yes, Master Su Xiaoyu's luck is really unique.
The sword is rising.
It's not something that can be done by idle people. Master Su, next time you must help me understand jade. I also want to touch your spirit. We don't want 200 million, 2 million, no, 200,000. After all, Su Sanwang's name of Sanwang is really famous. I'm flattered. It's not my luck. It's Brother Ye's luck.
Only Su Sanwang, with a wry smile and waving his hand, became more and more determined. When Yi Tian chose these original stones, he already knew what was going on inside them. One reason is that he has been a jade gambler for so many years and a master of jade solution for so many years, but he has never seen a jade gambler who can achieve such an amazing situation as Yi Tian.
It's lucky and coincidence to gamble once, but it's lucky and coincidence to gamble so many times?
The second reason is that when he took the cutting machine to cut these raw stones, he cut them in the direction of Yi Tian's finger. As long as he cut them in the direction of Yi Tian's finger, he could protect the jade pulp inside the raw stones to the maximum extent. Often the blade of the gear was rubbing against the jade pulp without any damage. He thinks that his ability of distinguishing jade and his judgment of the direction of the jade pulp inside the original stone are quite accurate, but he can't be as amazing as Yi Tian. As for the third point, it is very simple because Yi Tian showed a very strong idea to ask him for help before gambling on jade. He also said that if he was willing to help, he would not regret it.
And now the result is full proof that he did not make a wrong choice. What's more, he can't imagine what would happen if he had chosen to help Lu Fengjiu instead of helping Yi Tian before Lu Feng won't let go of himself if he fails to bet on jade, and Sanwang's signboard will also be smashed because of it. At that time, I'm afraid that the one who was waiting for him, as Lu Feng said before, will lose his reputation. From then on, no one will find him to solve jade. All of these together, it shows that the whole thing, there is only one answer and possibility, that is, Yi Tian already knows everything inside the original stone. Brother Su, let's go. You are familiar in Yudu. Take us to find a place to celebrate.
At this time, Yi Tian smiles to Su Sanwang and says,
Good. Hearing this, Su Sanwang converges his mind and nods in a hurry.
Then he goes out with Yi Tian and Ning Shui in the envious eyes of the people in the meeting hall.
Brother Yi, you are really an eye-opener today. 200 million jade tut. After walking out of the meeting hall, Su Sanwang looked at Yi Tian with a sigh. Then he looked at Yi Tian and said, Brother Yi, do you know what's inside before you by those stones?
Hearing Su Sanwang's words, Ning Shui also looks at Yi Tian curiously.
Just now, Yi Tian's selection of raw jade has been soaring, which makes her have the same doubts.
Although she knew that Yi Tian was very powerful, she could know what was in it through the thick stone skin, which made her feel that it was too incredible.
Brother Su is joking. How can I have such great ability? It's just that I've always had better luck.
The Leaf Day hears a sound, lightly smile to wave a hand, deny.
Are you kidding?
If he admits that he can see something in the original stone, will Ning Shui be shocked and think that if Yi Tian wants to, all her clothes will be gone, and all her inner charm can be seen by him? At that time, he would not jump into the Yellow River and be unable to wash it. How could he continue to face Ning Shui? Brother Yi, your luck is really tough enough. Su Sanwang stares at Yi Tian. Seeing that he looks solemn and doesn't look like a liar, he has to praise him. Immediately, he looks at the exhibition hall in the rear, and then says, however, Brother Yi, you have to be careful recently. Lu's people will repay you. You are afraid to cause a lot of trouble when you clean up Lu Feng today. Trouble? If the people of the Lu family really don't know what to do, I don't mind. Let them know what the real trouble is. Yi Tian hears this, raises eyebrow a smile, light way. When Su Sanwang heard this, he could not help but gape. Immediately, he shook his head with a bitter smile. All over the world, I'm afraid Yi Tian is the only one who can say this in Yudu. Moreover, if other people say such things, he will feel that the other party is tired of living, or has lost his mind. But it happened that when Yi Tian said this, he actually felt that what Yi Tian said was not a joke. If the Lu family really dares to mess around, they are afraid that they will kick the steel plate. Brother Lu, it's said that Yudu's mutton is unique. Please take us to a shop for a taste. And at this time, Yi Tian is already diverging from the topic, looking at Su Sanwang, laughing. Yi Tian, don't we look for Emperor Yu? Rather Snow hears this words, doubted saw leaf day one eye, way. Don't worry. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head, and says, I think it's better to wait for him to come to us. Waiting for Emperor Yu to come. Hearing this, Su Sanwang couldn't help laughing bitterly and sighing in his heart. Beating up the eldest son of the Lu family, waiting for the famous Jade Emperor to visit him. He has been in Yudu for so many years, but he has only seen it in Yi Tian. Brother Su, let's go and take us to taste the delicious food of Yudu. Let's have a good drink of celebration wine. At this time, Yi Tian clapped Su Sanwang on the shoulder and said with a smile. Well, I happen to know an old shop. It's delicious and the relationship between the boss and me is good. I'll take you to try it. After hearing this, Su Sanwang regained his mind and nodded with a smile. Then he took Yi Tian and Ning Shui to his car and galloped all the way. Before long, a group of 3 came to the edge of Yudu, a stall that looked like it was built in front of an abandoned factory. The north wind is blowing, and now it's snowy again. But in the shed built in front of the stall, the white fog with strong roasted mutton and cumin fragrance is flying, and the red charcoal fire is burning out. It just looks like it should be a local flavor shop. This can also be seen from the dark crowd on the seats lined up under the awning at the front of the stall. Boss Buza, 3 caddies of roast lamb chops, another roast lamb leg, hand-grazed mutton and big plate chicken, all for us. 3 more bottles of Illustress. Su Sanwang was obviously very familiar with this place. He went to the stall and waved his hand to an old man with white hair who was busy in front of Nong Pit. Okay, Boss Su, sit down first, and you'll be ready in a minute. Hearing this, the old man grinned at Su Sanwang, and then nodded to Yi Tian and Ning Shui politely. Yi Tianchong smiles, then follows Su Sanwang and finds a table to take shelter from the wind. When you come to Yudu, you must try this yillik. After sitting down, Su Sanwang unscrewed a bottle of wine just on the table, poured a full glass for Yi Tian and Ning Shui, raised the glass, and said with a smile, this glass of wine, on the one hand, is for Yi Laodi and Miss Ning to clean up the dust, on the other hand, is for Yiha, Yi Laodi, your solution stone rises greatly. Good. We did it. Yi Tian nodded with a light smile, and then said to Ning Shui, you can do it at will, you don't need to be with us. It's too cold. I'll have some to warm up. I can drink a little. Rather Snow is not that kind of delicate character, also won't hide anything in front of Yi Tian, smell speech, also smile of end up the wine cup. Cheer. Seeing this, Su Sanwang laughs and raises his glass. He bumps into Yi Tian's and Ning Shui's glass and drinks it up. Good wine. Yi Tian then raised his glass and drank it all. Immediately, his eyes brightened and he exclaimed. The temperament of this special tune is the same as that of the frontier. It's hot and hot. When you drink it, it's like a red and gorgeous chili pepper running through your throat and burning your throat. But after a mouthful, there's a warm heat sweeping all over your body, making your body cool and warm. How spicy. At the same time, Ning Shui learns the appearance of Yi Tian and Su San Wang. After drinking it all, her white face immediately turns red, spits out her pink tongue, and gently fans it all the time. Haha, Miss Ning is a woman in wine. Seeing this, Su San Wang gave a thumbs up to Ning Shui and exclaimed, "Good drink." The Leaf Day hears a sound, also to rather Snow put up a thumb, smilingly tease away. "Make fun of me and give you 3 drinks. Ning Shui hears this, cherry red small mouth do rises, hum to Leaf Day Jiao Hanwei. Okay, then I'll punish myself for 3 glasses. When Yi Tian heard this, he burst out laughing. Then he took up his wine cup and punished himself for 3 cups. Brother, you are such a big deal. I can't change my face even after 3 cups of Yilik. It's the first time I've seen it. Seeing this scene, Su Sanwang gave Yi Tian a thumbs up and exclaimed. You know, Yilik is a pure high alcohol. It's nearly 70 degrees. It can be easily ignited with a lighter. When ordinary people drink this wine, they will feel like a lump in their throat, raging fire, and going to the middle of their head. But now, Yi Tian's face did not change. Even drink 3 cups, this amount of wine is really enough. Ha ha ha, brother Su is joking. Yi Tian waved his hand with a smile. The amount of wine is actually related to physical fitness. As a practitioner, Yi Tian's physical fitness is far superior to that of ordinary people. Let alone 3 cups, even if he drinks 30 cups, he won't be able to go to the top. At this time, with a cry, they ordered roast lamb chops, roast lamb legs, hand-grasping mutton and large plate chicken. Roasted lamb chops and roasted lamb legs are fragrant, and the mutton is tender and refreshing. What's more, they don't even have the smell of mutton. As for big plate chicken, it's red, yellow and green, bright in color, rough and gorgeous, just like the style of the frontier. Not to mention the attractive fragrance, just the color, it seems to make people move their fingers. Sure enough, if you want to eat mutton well, you have to come to the frontier and you do. In the future, I will bring my family to play together. Even Ning Shui, a girl who has eaten a lot of local delicacies, gives a thumbs up after a few mouthfuls of roast lamb chops. Yudu is a good place. There are mountains, water, fruits, and jade. There are treasures everywhere. Su Sanwang nodded deeply, but immediately, his eyes showed a sad color. Although everything is good in Yudu, it's a pity that the people he cares about are not in this place. Seeing this, Ning Shui immediately knows that she has made some slip of the tongue, which pot doesn't mention which pot. Now, what Su Sanwang lacks most is the company of his family. Drink, drink. If we are drunk, we will get rid of our worries. We won't come back tonight. Yi Tian sees this, or cannot know what Su Sanwang thinks in the heart, while sighing for him, raises the wineglass, and says to him with a smile. If you don't get drunk, you don't come back. Hearing this, Su Sanwang nodded with laughter, raised his glass and touched Yi Tian heavily, then drank up. As a matter of fact, people all say that his wine is prosperous, but in fact, most of the time he drinks for the sake of drowning his worries. After he gets drunk, he doesn't have to think so much about it. Yi Tian intends to enlighten Su Sanwang, so he deliberately digs away from the topic, pulls Su Sanwang, and talks about all kinds of urban legends and strange stories of Yudu. Su Sanwang has been in Yudu for so many years, and has been in contact with all kinds of things. Naturally, he is most familiar with these things. He told Yi Tian a lot of interesting stories about Yudu, such as good wine and delicious food. In addition, Yi Tian and Su Sanwang kept pushing cups and changing cups. After a while, both of them had a bottle. Even Ning Shui drank several cups, and their cheeks were red with the tip of the nose. They are all slightly red, and there is more dense water mist in their eyes because they are slightly drunk. At a glance, they are so beautiful that people tremble. Especially when she is drunk, and under the temperature of the charcoal oven on the table to keep the barbecue warm, she unzips and reveals her camel cashmere sweater. Her slim figure is even more prominent. She has a slim waist, a round radian, and is very shy. Beauty, our boss asked you to come over and have a drink with him. Let's face it. And in the moment of drinking, along the booth not far away, 4 or 5 young people with drunken smile and staggering steps came by, looking at Ning Shui and saying, "You're drunk." Ning Shui feels the other side's eyes and immediately pulls up the clothes. She looks at them in disgust and says,
Beauty, what do you mean? It wasn't quite hot just now.
As soon as we came here, it was so cold that we zipped up.
Was it too windy in Yuru, which made our chest cold?
Do you want our boss to help you? Those gangsters in tights, small suits, and cigarettes in their mouths, seeing Ning Shui's action, laugh more recklessly and speak more openly. Ning Shui hears the sound, the fundus of the eye rises to rush up 2 regiments of anger.
Kneel down and apologize.
But without waiting for her attack, although massive, but after a bottle of Yilik, Yi Tian was slightly drunk.
He looked at those little gangsters indifferently and said faintly, "Otherwise, I will make you regret being born in this world." Let you regret being born into this world.
The threat in this word means that Mori is cold to the extreme.
Oh, I can't see it, man, you seem to be pissing. As soon as the leader heard Yi Tian's words, he immediately sneered and followed.
He reached out and took out a long spring knife from his pocket. After the blade came out, he pinched the handle of the knife and stabbed it heavily on the table.
Xu Elian's blade trembled slightly.
Around those little gangsters to see this scene, immediately hands in front of the chest, one by one ridiculed looking at Yi Tian, just waiting to see his whole body shaking picture. If you don't get down on your knees and apologize, you'll soon know that I have polyuria. Just, beyond their expectation, Yi Tian sees this, the expression on the face is calm and comparable, indifferently looking at the spring knife that trembles from Wu, light way of a word.
Lytroff, elder brother several, all come over, come to see quickly, this urine sex person is exactly how urine sex method son.
The little gangster who put the knife on the table was stunned and immediately turned his head to his companions and said with a smile,
"Wow."
As soon as a word fell, more than 20 young people came along the nearby booth, holding beer bottles or stools, and some holding barbecue bars, striding to Yi Tian. They were greedy, and their eyes were full of fierce light. It seemed that the next moment, their hands would fall on Yi Tian.
"Come on, man, let's see how good your urine is. I tell you, you must stand firm, don't counsels, lest the beauties around you look down on you."
The little gangster who drew the sword, looking at the big troops around him, his face immediately became more arrogant, and he raised his eyebrows and said faintly,
"Brothers, I'm Su San Wang. Sell me face. Let's forget today. I'll treat you to a drink later."
Su Sanwang looked at the dark crowd, and he woke up most of the time. He quickly arched his hand at the leading little gangster and said with a smile, although he knows that Yi Tian's skill is very strong, and several people can't get close to him, at this moment, there are more than 20 people, and they still have things to do, not to mention the beer bottle and stool, but all the barbecue sticks are made of pure steel, and the jade sticks are big strings, and the sticks are full of weight.
Once stabbed, the body must be more than a transparent blood hole, lost half a small life. Su San Wang? A cracked jade, you calculate a fart, how can I give you face?
However, after hearing Su San Wang's words, the leading little gangster sneered and sneered. Hearing the news, Su San Wang looked embarrassed immediately, but he complained bitterly in his heart and broke into a cold sweat.
"Ah, boss, let's have a good talk. All the expenses today are mine."
At the same time, the barbecue booth Buza boss saw the situation was not good, also rushed to the leader of the small Hun, arched his hand, and then said, "Brother, you should also know that the Jade Emperor usually likes to come to me to eat and drink. If he knows what happened today, I'm afraid it's not very good."
The Jade Emperor? Even if the Jade Emperor comes here today, he will lose face. Boy, don't you want us to kneel down and kowtow and apologize?
If you think about today's business, you'll kneel down and kowtow 3 times to apologize to us, and then let the girl beside you have a few drinks with my boss to help him warm up. It's a pity that even if Boss Buza moved out the Jade Emperor Buddha, these little gangsters also scoffed and despised it. Moreover, because of their attitude, they became more unscrupulous and arrogant.
I thought you were someone.
It turned out that it was the dog of the Lu family. Yi Tian listens to this one voice a sentence, after seeing an eye toward this group of little hoodlums, light way.
Although these little gangsters look drunk and stagger, they don't even smell of alcohol. You know, these guys are not good babies. They don't drink at all when they come out for a party.
If it's just a coincidence, it's also a coincidence. The only explanation is that the news that Lu Feng was cleaned up by him has spread to the Lu family, and this scene is the first wave of revenge given to him by the Lu family. But, looking for a group of little gangsters, I want to clean him up.
The Liu family are looking down on him. Boy, who are you calling dogs?
The little thug of the leader listens to Yi Tian's words, and his face shows an angry look immediately.
He points to Yi Tian and scolds angrily. Take money to do garbage work, you are not a dog, who is it? Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and gave a cold smile, followed by playing with the taste. Don't you want to see if I have polyuria? Now, I'll show you. Bang hiss. When the words fell, Yi Tian's Hanshi's 2 fingers bent slightly, and immediately knocked gently towards the table. This action seemed to be an understatement to the extreme.
But when the sound of the collision between his fingers and the table sounded, the spring knife, which deeply penetrated into the table, suddenly bounced from the table, whistling and flying upside down.
Shwa! In a flash, the blade of Shueliang fell on the fingertip of the little gangster pointing to Yi Tian.
With the sound of a paper cutter falling on the paper, the fingertip of the little gangster immediately split in 2 from the middle. What's more frightening is that not only the skin and flesh of his hand, but also the bones of his hand were cut in half. The picture was so frightening and weird that it almost made people wonder if the bones of the little gangster were made of tofu. Otherwise, how could it be so easy to cut them in half? Hiss! Before everyone could react, the spring knife, flying upside down, sliced the little gangster's index finger in half and flew up obliquely. Then, like a powerful bullet, it pierced the little gangster's chest heavily. The force is so strong that even after the blade penetrates, the blade and the handle will directly sink into it. Not only that, the powerful force even pushed the little gangster up from the ground. Immediately, his body knocked down several companions heavily, and then fell into the deep snow outside, revealing a huge human-shaped depression.
God! Su Sanwan's eyes gaped and his mouth widened.
After he uttered a sound, he could no longer say a second word, leaving only a strong shock in his heart. However, at this moment, he didn't know whether he should be shocked by Yi Tian's fingers bending and gently knocking on the table, and then let the dagger fly deep into the table, or whether he should be shocked by the dagger's ability to cut the little gangster's belt, flesh and bone in half, or whether the dagger could take the little gangster's feet away after cutting his bones. I was shocked by the snow. But there is no doubt that this scene, only 2 words can describe, that is, urine.
Ah!
Almost at the same time, the little gangster, after falling into the snow shelter, finally felt terrible pain. Along his mouth, he immediately gave out a terrible scream that almost pierced people's eardrums. As the saying goes, a finger to the heart, a finger cut, will make people feel very painful, not to mention, like he is now, the bones have been cut in half. If the pain can be divided into 10 levels, then at the moment the goods bear pain, must be 100 levels, the astonishing situation. At the same time, at this moment, not only Su Sanwine was stunned, but also the guys with that little gangster were all stupid. They couldn't believe that there was such a strange thing in the world.
Even, many people are rubbing their eyes crazily, wondering if they are hallucinating at the moment. Well, do you think that's enough urine?
At the same time, Yi Tian turned his head and looked around at the little gangsters in the field. After a light sentence, he raised his eyebrows slightly and said with a smile, "If you don't think it's enough, then I can show you something more piss." A knife cuts the flesh and bones, and takes people as light as a feather, flying upside down.
If it doesn't urinate, then the world really doesn't know what urination is.
Su Sanwang listened to Yi Tian's words, his lips moved, but he couldn't say a word, and his heart was shocked. The boss of the barbecue shop, Buza, is not so. If it is not for this scene, he almost doubts whether he is hallucinating. The 2 of them are still like this, not to mention the little gangsters in the field.
When Yi Tian's voice fell, they fell into a dead silence.
Everyone, at this moment, all over the body as if he had gone mad, in the crazy twitch shaking, face cannot believe the look, although the charcoal fire around, but they cannot feel anything, just feel a terrible chill, into the body fiercely drilling, liver and gall are cold. Such power, let them feel, is beyond the limit of human beings can have, as if, Yi Tian is the kind of Superman they usually see in the movies and comics. Between every move, they can easily be these ordinary people, as weeds like elimination. When we go together, I don't believe that he can deal with so many of us alone. But just at this time, along the back of the gang, a middle-aged man with a bald head stood up, grabbed a bunch of iron signboards with fierce eyes, drank a deep voice, and then said, "Clean up this boy, I'll give you a big reward, car tickets, whatever you want." As soon as the words came out, the eyes of those little gangsters around changed suddenly.
The original shock was replaced by the color of eager to try.
As the bare-headed middle-aged people said, even if Tian can fight again, his 2 fists are hard to beat 4 hands, not to mention dozens of them. One mouthful of saliva may not drown Tian, but at the same time, a group of people rush up, one person with an iron stick, which can definitely make Tian a sieve. Needless to say, the boss has already said that as long as Tian is killed, there will be a lot of benefits.
It's just a job of licking blood at the edge of a knife. Who doesn't want to fight for wealth? What do you want?
You'd better dream about such a good thing.
Tian hears the sound and laughs indifferently.
He grabs a clean sheep bone on the table and shakes it gently.
Senbai's skeleton is shining with dazzling cold light.
He makes a fierce sound and sweeps away towards the bald middle-aged man. The bald middle-aged man hears the news, and the secret in his heart is not good.
He will dodge when he jumps up. Bang!
Unfortunately, although his reaction speed is fast enough, he still can't compare with Tian's speed. Before he reacts, he feels the cold wind howling in front of him. Immediately, his head is like a heavy hit by a train, and the intense pain spreads out. As soon as it's dark, Venus shines, and people will fall to the ground. This treacherous scene made a group of little gangsters who had some hope in their hearts feel like they had been poured a basin of ice water by someone. The little idea disappeared in an instant, leaving only endless fear and panic.
A piece of sheep bone can knock a big living man into a coma. Isn't it Superman?
They may be numerous and powerful, but no matter how many people there are in front of this kind of opponent who has crushing strength, it's just gored baby saving grandfather and giving his head away.
Continue to dream, you said together, there are dreams. Tian looked at the direction of the bald middle-aged man, with a faint smile.
Immediately, he reached out and grabbed a handful of peanut shells on the table, looked at the group of little gangsters, and said faintly, "Do you want me to send you to have a dream?"
"No dare not, we have eyes that don't know Taishan. Please let us go as a fart."
"We swear, from now on, we will never dare again." As soon as the words came to my ears, the little gangsters immediately trembled and shook their heads in a hurry. In their hands, they dropped to the ground, nodded and bowed, and their faces were full of flattering smiles. At this moment, they have nothing to care about. There is only one thing in their head, which is how to get Tian's forgiveness and get rid of the sad fate of the bald boss and another companion. "You've completely destroyed my pleasure of eating and drinking.
Now you want me to think that nothing has happened. Do you think I'm easy to talk? Or am I easy to bully?"
Tian listens to this word a sentence, eyebrow tip lightly a pick, light way.
Way.
That group of little gangsters listened to Tian this words. The person immediately counseled, whole body shiver, the facial expression on the face, simply compare cry even uglier.
Tian is so alone that a group of them can't breathe. If such a person is a bully, who else is a bully in this world? Besides, don't you think you shouldn't come to ask for my forgiveness, but to say sorry to the person who should really apologize?
Leaf Day indifferent smile, looking at this group has been completely scared to break the gall of the little gangster, word by word light way.
"I'm sorry. I'm just talking nonsense. Please forgive us."
When they heard this, they quickly turned to look at Ning Shui, with a flattering smile on their face and a trembling cry, hoping to get her forgiveness.
"Since it's an apology, shouldn't you show some sincerity?"
Tian looked at their appearance, raised his eyebrows and laughed. His tone was calm, but he spilled a kind of cold killing, and said faintly, "Forget what I just said? Kneel down and apologize." Hearing the sound, these little gangsters immediately showed a color of hesitation on their faces. Their age, similar to Ning Shui, made them kneel and kowtow to appear, which really made it difficult for them to bend their knees.
"I want to apologize, but I don't have any sincerity." "Why, are you going to ask me to help?" Tian sees shape, light then way. Although Tian's tone is very flat, there is a kind of invisible powerful pressure.
The moment it spreads out, many little gangsters feel that there is a towering mountain in their heart, which makes them almost breathless.
Put on. The next second, without any hesitation, they immediately fell to the ground, kneeling in front of Ning Shui, like dumplings, one after another. "Please spare us. We swear we will never dare again." Closely following, this group of people toward Ning Shui brush kowtow,
cry, beg repeatedly, words sound, even have so a little uniform meaning.
Where has Ning Shui seen this kind of battle?
For a moment, she is at a loss. She can't help but turn her head and look at Yi Tian. She wants to know how he plans to solve these things.
Since it's an apology, it must be sincere. Kneeling beside the charcoal fire basin, what's the sincerity?
In ancient times, there was Cheng Men Likshu.
Today, you must kneel down and apologize. Go and stay in the snow. I didn't tell you to get up. If anyone dares to get up, don't blame me.
Leaf did a rather snow-light smile after nodding, then looking at those kneeling all over the ground, black great little gangsters, word by word, light way.
Kneel in the snow, don't say up, can't get up?
Little gangsters hear this, can't help but stimulate Lingling to shiver, looking at Yi Tian with a face full of horror, eyes full of fear. You know, the outdoor temperature of Yudu is always below -10 degrees, especially in this kind of snowy days. It can reach an amazing -20 or 30 degrees, which can be seen from sitting by the fire, eating barbecue and drinking liquor.
Now, Yi Tian let them kneel in the snow.
Even if they were lucky, they didn't freeze to death, but they probably got frostbite all over the body. There are 3 advantages and 2 disadvantages.
Why, don't you?
Yi Tian looked at their creepy faces, pondered with a smile and said faintly, it seems that I have to help you.
Shua.
Yi Tian sees this and grabs the little gangster who has been abusing Ning Shui. His body is like a tiny feather. The whole person flies out of control from the ground and flies out to the stall.
Bang!
Next breath, his body will be like a hard stone, heavy fall to the ground, kneeling in the snow. It's snowy, just a breath, his whole body has been covered with snow, looks like a snowman. What's more, what makes people feel more mysterious is that such a living man, after flying upside down and falling to the ground, didn't even struggle for a moment. He was so dull that he looked like a piece of wood in stone sculpture. Although this picture is strange, there is no doubt that Yi Tian has done something about it. However, they really can't understand what kind of means it is. They can only grasp it with empty hands and turn a living man into a rigid figure.
Are you going out on your own, or do you want me to help you?
Yi Tian bowed his head and glanced at the little gangsters around him. Every word was a light way.
Let's go out by ourselves, let's go by ourselves.
A word to the ear, a group of small gangsters immediately excited Lingling beat a shiver, followed, without any hesitation, one by one rushed to the outside of the booth, followed, legs soft, kneeling in the snow, head down on the cold snow, but even dare not lift a cent. At this moment, they even felt that Yi Tian was like a legendary god in charge of life and death. Mortals, in the face of the gods, can't do anything else except kneel down and worship.
My God, what's going on here? What's the matter? Why are these people kneeling here? They are not all his. Is Yudu a great man who has come?
In the blizzard, dozens of people kneel in the snow, let the wind and snow drift, scatter their bodies, and turn their bodies into snowmen. This kind of picture is extremely shocking, especially when it is filmed as a video and put on the internet. It is immediately like a storm, sweeping the whole Yudu. Needless to say, when those watching the video found that these guys kneeling in the wind and snow, let the snow cover their bodies, and turned into snowmen, they were all little gangsters who swaggered in the streets of Yudu in the past.
You know, these little gangsters are like hob meat.
They are the most difficult to clean up at ordinary times. People with ability are afraid of sticking to their feet and getting their feet dirty when they step on their feet. But now, these guys, one by one, just like wood carving and clay figurines, kneel down in the snow, let the wind and snow add to their bodies, and they all don't move. This can't help but shock people. It can't help but make people curious about the identity of the people who led to all this. Boss, change seats for us, and some bottles of yillik, 30 kebabs, and some vegetables for us. At this time, Yi Tian, who has led to all this, is smiling and waving to the boss of Buzhou who has completely looked silly.
Okay, no problem. I'll clean it up now.
Buzhou boss heard, hurriedly nodded, hurriedly give Yi Tian they picked a seat, and then he asked for things, all over. Good wind, good snow, good night scene, come on, don't let those meaningless people bad mood, let's continue to eat, continue to drink. Yi Tian raises a glass to Su San Wang and Ning Shui and says with a smile, completely ignoring that there are dozens of people kneeling in the snow outside. In fact, this is the real him. When he was in the square-inch spiritual realm, he did what he wanted. When he saw injustice, he pulled out his sword and was happy with his love and hatred. At this moment, in fact, he had already stopped. Otherwise, these people would not even kneel in the wind and snow, and they would be annihilated in ashes. Continue to eat, continue to drink. After eating and drinking enough, I still have something to do. After a cup, Tian raises his glass to Su Sanwang again, and then smiles.
What else? Su Sanwang hears the news and looks at Tian in confusion. He doesn't understand what else he hasn't done. I remember Brother Su, when you were on the train, you told me that the Lu family has been in Yudu for hundreds of years? How many years? Tian didn't answer directly.
Instead, he picked up his glass and drank slowly. Looking at Su Sanwang, he asked with a smile.
The Lu family probably made a fortune at the end of Wanli. Since then, they have been undertaking the jade business of Yudu.
Up to now, they have been in Yudu for almost 400 years. When Su Sanwang heard Tian's words, he felt that he had guessed something, but some of them were not sure, so he was careful.
400 years, that's really long enough. It's an old family.
Even if Tian hears these words, also can't help but slightly surprised. A family with 400 years of history, let alone in China, is extremely rare no matter what kind of transition it is in the world. But it also shows how astonishing the Lu family's deep-rooted in the Jade capital is. Tian even doubts that the reason why the Jade Emperor has been able to dominate the Jade capital in recent years is that the Jade Emperor's decision to trade in the Jade capital is like the Emperor's decision.
It's not that the Jade Emperor is really better than the Lu family.
I'm afraid that the Lu family is deliberately keeping a low profile and concealing their own strength to make the Jade capital more prosperous. Jade Emperor for their family, absorb the attention of the outside world, let them become the Shadow Emperor behind the scenes. Yes, in fact, the Lu family has more than controlled a lot of the Jade business. All walks of life in Yudu have been infiltrated by them for a long time. It can be said that even if all the jade in Yudu has been hollowed out, the Lu family can continue to have a place in Yudu. Even the Jade Emperor can't match this.
This is the old family. Su Sanwang nodded inside.
However, although he said this, he was lamenting that the century-old Lu family was not vulgar, but in fact, he was also admonishing Tian.
The centennial family is so strong and profound.
Today's small moves are just the tip of the iceberg they have revealed. If the contradiction intensifies, the Lu family will certainly be able to come up with more powerful strength to deal with Tian. By then, everything will be in real trouble, and it is not known who will win.
The Lu family, a family of 400 years, really has two brushes.
When Tian heard these words, he chuckled and lifted his glass. After looking at the liquor in the glass, he said faintly, 400 years of glory, Lu family, it's time to help them pull down the curtain. Help the Lu family, who has glorified Yudu for 400 years, pull down the curtain. When Tian's words fell, Su Sanwang immediately kept silent and looked at him, his lips moved, but he couldn't say a word. Although he had just guessed that Tian wanted to retaliate against the Lu family when he mentioned the Lu family, he did not expect that what Tian thought and wanted to do in his heart was to let the Lu family, who had been in Yudu for 400 years, come to an end. Not only that, if someone said this, he would feel that the other party was joking. But when Tian said this, he felt that Tian didn't mean to be joking. It seemed that he was going to do it when he said it. Even, he could not help but wonder whether tonight would be the last glorious moment of the Lu family in the world. At this time, along the stall, the north wind suddenly rose, and the snow, which had already been sprinkled, suddenly became bigger again. Every snowflake was as big as a child's fist. It turns out that there are such big snowflakes in the world.
Ning Shui looks at the snowflakes under the dim yellow light and murmurs.
At the same time, the remaining light of her eyes can't help looking at Tian.
Walking in such ice and snow, is it possible to walk all the way to the White Head? What a heavy snow! White, clean. It's a pity not to do anything on such a snowy night.
Tian, looking at the snowflakes, chuckles and puts a bottle of Yilik in the warm water beside the fire. He says with a smile, wait for me here.
When I destroy the Lu family, you won't come back drunk. Warm wine kills Lu family? This tone is really breaking the sky. Su Sanwang listens to Yi Tian's words and his lips move. But before he can speak, Yi Tian's figure has disappeared in the snow. Tonight, there will be an unprecedented storm sweeping Yidu. Su Sanwang murmured in his heart that no one would sleep in Yidu that night. People around him have heard Yi Tiangong's words, and they will spread the news. At this moment, I'm afraid everyone in Yidu has already known about it and is waiting for the final result. With the wind and snow blowing, Yi Tian walked alone, but after a short video, he came to the door of the Lu family. Lu's family has been in Yidu for 400 years. Although they are very low-key, they seem to be crushed by the Jade Emperor. In fact, almost half of Yidu is the industry of Lu's family. Moreover, Lu Shijun, the contemporary owner of the Lu family, pays great attention to family affection. So even though the Lu family has a large number of people, they basically live together. As for the Long House, they live in an old house with a history of 400 years, which can be called a cultural relic. Lu Feng is the eldest son of the Lu family. Lu Fu. Yi Tian went to the front and back of the large courtyard of the Lu family and swept towards the gate. When he saw the 4 big characters with red lacquer and gilded gold and the entrance steps carved with sapphire, he couldn't help raising his eyebrows and sneering. Zhumen Jade Terrace, all of these are the rules and regulations of ancient princes and marquises. But in today's era, there is no house without a house. It seems that the so-called low-key of the Lu family is just a show for outsiders. The real idea in their heart is that in Yidu, they want to become the same as the ancient aristocratic families, monopolizing a place completely, living and killing in their hands. It's a pity that although their abacus is good, it's a pity that they met Yi Tian, and fortunately, they provoked him. Today, let your so-called Lu Fu be eliminated from the world. Yi Tian smiles indifferently. With a flick of his finger, a blade of wind flies out and lands on the plaque with 2 red lacquer and gold characters of Lu Fu. Just with a stroke, it turns into countless pieces, and Huala falls all over the ground. Who is it? The plaque was suddenly smashed. Along the Lu's courtyard, there was a cold cry immediately, followed by a clear gunshot, which suddenly sounded in the silent snow night. The bullet head with a sharp sound of breaking the air, whistling towards the position of Yi Tian. I'm ready, and I ask who I am and what I do. The earth avalanche. Yi Tian sneers indifferently. After avoiding the bullet, he suddenly pours his mana into his right foot, runs the 5 elements secret skill, and stomps heavily toward the ground. Boom! A foot fell, immediately like a dragon rolled under the ground, violently rolling shock. The waves of terror swept towards the jade steps in front of the Lu's residence. In an instant, the jade steps burst open, turned into bits of debris, swept in all directions, and many sharp jade chips, straight at the shooting position. Hiss! In an instant, the jade fragments hit the shooter's throat, took a bright red, and fell on the snow. Then the man fell on the ground and lost his breath completely. In this scene, the faces of the people guarding the house immediately turned pale as paper behind the wall of the Lu family. Yi Tian's performance is really terrible. They didn't see what the other party had done, so they killed a companion first. Although they had been told that the young man outside was extremely terrible, they still did not expect that the other side was so powerful that it was astonishing. Guns, it can be said, have been the most fierce way in the world when fighting alone, but now, in front of Yi Tian, powerful guns are like clay. If it is not Yi Tian's shadow that leaves a shadow on the snow, they almost all think that each other is a ghost. The noble guests come to the door. Does the Lu family use bullets to receive them? And at this time, Yi Tian is already stepping to the door of the Lu family, carrying hands, light way. If it's really a noble guest, our Lu family will naturally welcome us with good wine, but if it's an evil guest, we can only use shotguns. After a word, there was a sudden noise in Lu's house. The door suddenly opened and the lights were bright. A thin and old man was leaning on a crutch in his hand. Although he looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind, his eyes were still shining with great dignity and light. This old man is the contemporary owner of the Lu family, Lu Shijun. So you Lu family are going to treat me as an evil guest? When Yi Tian heard this, he raised his eyebrows and laughed. As he approached the Lu family, he calmed down. It's not up to the Lu family to decide whether to be a distinguished guest or an evil guest. It's up to you, Mr. Yi.
Lu Shifeng stares at Yi Tian.
No. It's not up to me to decide whether I'm a distinguished guest or an evil guest. It's up to your Lu family to decide. If you people in the Lu family obey the rules and are willing to accept defeat, then I don't mind being a kind distinguished guest. Unfortunately, you have chosen the opposite way. Yi Tian smiles indifferently and says calmly, since you all say I'm an evil guest, I'll be simpler. I want the Lu family to disappear from Yudu tonight. Do you do it yourself or do I help you? Let the Lu family disappear from Yudu tonight.
Whether it is Lu Shijun or the Lu family standing behind him, the anger in his eyes almost turns into substance.
Lu's family has been in Yudu for 400 years.
No one dares to say such arrogant words to them even when the situation is at its worst. I haven't dealt with the mountain people for several years. I didn't expect that the young generation of mountain people are not only stronger than we were then, but also much more arrogant than we were then.
I'm not very old, but I'm very arrogant.
At this time, a strong voice came from the house of the Lu family. With the voice of words falling, an old man who looks about 60 or 70 years old has passed through the Lu family and stood in front of them. Not only that, although the old man was very old, his body was full of power, and his back was straight, especially his eyes, which did not look like the old man at all. His eyes were bright and clear, and even had the heroic spirit of a young man.
Days later.
Moreover, when Yi Tian glanced at the old man carefully, he found that the old man was a rare master among the people on the mountain.
There is no doubt that this old man is definitely the biggest card in heritage of the Lu family.
It is also the reason why they are so arrogant after they have seen their own means and understood that they are a mountain dweller. The king worships
Grandfather Wang. Brother Wang Ming.
At the same time, when the old man appeared, all the angry faces of the Lu family showed their excitement and joy. It was as if the appearance of Wang Ming confirmed that Yi Tian had no choice but to leave here. In other words, today waiting for Yi Tian, I'm afraid it's not the destruction of the Lu family, but his own small life here. Boy, Grandfather Wang Ming is the chief worshipper of the Lu family, and he is also the most powerful man in the later days of the heaven class.
When you see him, why don't you come back to worship him?
Closely following, in the crowd of the Lu family, a young man with a proud face looks at Yi Tian and hums coldly with disdain. Hearing these words, Wang Ming also looks at Yi Tian arrogantly, with his hands behind his back, as if waiting for Yi Tian to kowtow to him.
In the later days of Tianji, do you want me to kowtow? Do you think too much about the Lu family? Yi Tian hears this, raises eyebrow a smile, light way.
In the later stage of Tianji, although he was really a top master in the mountain, he was surprised. But this kind of existence, want to let oneself kneel down to kowtow, that is really think a little too much.
What kind of thing do you dare to talk to the experts in the later days of Tianji?
The moment Yi Tian's words fell, the young man of the Lu family immediately pointed to Yi Tian and roared loudly.
It seems that the adults in your family have never taught you. When talking to people, you can't just point with your fingers.
In that case, let me teach you. Yi Tian hears the sound and looks at the young man with a cold smile. Immediately, he shakes his hand and flies away quickly with a sharp air-breaking sound.
How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? I think you are short of discipline, too.
When Wang Ming heard the sharp sound of breaking the air, he could not help but feel a little awe in his heart. After looking at Yi Tian in surprise, he shook his hand slightly. A flying knife attacked the wind blade which was coming quickly. He wanted to kill the wind blade with the flying knife to keep the finger pointed by the young Lu family.
Kong!
Suddenly, the wind blade and dagger hit heavily together. With the sound of gold and iron, a group of brilliant sparks flew out. Next, the dagger, which exudes cold light, falls to the ground in two under the sharp impact of the wind blade. Hiss! What's more, after the wind blade smashed the dagger, the attack never subsided. It roared forward. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of the young man of the Lu family. The fierce wind just swept gently, accompanied by a crisp sound. The young man's fingers were broken in two, and blood fell on the ground.
Ah!
This terrible pain immediately made the young man of the Lu family howl.
How could that be? How is that possible? Boy, who the hell are you? Who is the disciple of the 5 sects of the 3 sects? At the same time, Wang Ming looks at Yi Tian with a look of disbelief. His dagger was made of cold iron. It was sharp and tough. But now, it just collided with Yi Tian's wind blade and broke into two pieces. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he couldn't believe that this scene would be true. Even at this moment, he could not help but wonder if Yi Tian's cultivation level was higher than himself. It's just that the other person looks like a young man who looks like a college student. It's incredible that he can use the 5-element magic. How can he have the cultivation realm above the later stage of the heaven level? Zongmen? Do you think those so-called sects deserve me to be their disciple? Hearing this, Yi Tian smiles indifferently. Looking at Wang Ming, he says faintly, "It's not easy for a mountain man to reach the later stage of heaven level. I advise you to leave now if you should. Don't burn yourself up. Those sects don't deserve him to be a disciple?" When Wang Ming heard Yi Tian's words, Rao Shi regarded himself as a person with high self-esteem, but he still couldn't help taking a breath. Sanzongmen are the 8 mountains in front of the mountain people, and the people who can become their disciples are not ordinary people. But now, in Yi Tian's place, it seems that Sanzongmen is just a common existence that can't be more leisurely. This arrogant attitude can't help but make people moved. You mean, I'm not your opponent? Immediately after that, Wang Ming's face shows a dignified look. After staring at Yi Tian for a long time, he says in a deep voice, "What do you think?" Yi Tian smiles and says indifferently, "You really don't know what to do." Wang Ming thinks highly of himself. Although he thought Yi Tian was very good before, he can't help hearing what he said now. He looks at Yi Tian. After a cold drink, he claps his hand to his waist. A long sword, as bright as ice, appears in his palm. Zheng! Zheng! Zheng. As Wang Ming approaches Yi Tian, he gently shakes his sword, and the bright sword flowers immediately roar out, like the gorgeous fireworks intertwined together, towards Yi Tian. This skill is absolutely amazing among the people on the mountain. Even the top monk of heaven level may not be able to get away from this move smoothly. The people of the Lu family who were watching the battle were all shocked to see the bright sword flower in Wang Ming's hand. They didn't expect that there was such a perfect sword skill in the world. That kind of feeling makes people feel that no matter who it is, no matter what object it is, as long as it stands in front of the sword, it will be twisted into pieces. Yi Tian, maybe he has some means, but now he is surrounded by this terrible sword flower. How can he still have life? There is only one result waiting for this crazy guy, that is, he will be turned into a pool of blood fogged by this sharp sword, and let him pay the price of bleeding for his own arrogance, and there is no way to turn back. This guy, is he scared? At this time, the Lu family suddenly found an incredible situation, that is, when the sword flowers came to Yi Tian, this guy didn't do any action. He didn't dodge. It was like that he had been scared into wood carving and stone sculpture by this fierce sword. He could not make any other choice except standing and waiting for death. Of course, Yi Tian is not looking for death. Although Wang Ming's sword looks really good, it is much worse than Yi Tian's recent opponent. No matter how strong Wang Ming is, how can he compare with Lu Bufan, who was called the first man on the mountain before? Moreover, as a practitioner of Yi Tian, when Yi Tian was on the 7th floor of the cave, he had to die in the later stage of the heaven level. Needless to say, Yi Tian's strength now is already on the 7th floor of the cave, and half of his feet are about to enter the 8th floor of the cave. The people of the Lu family, seeing this group of sword flowers, only felt that they were gorgeous and had nowhere to hide. They even felt that the sharp and full sword flowers could not be hidden and indestructible. But for the existence of Yi Tian, the beauty of the sword flower is ridiculous, even full of flaws. Let it go. When the next breath is about to tear him to pieces, Yi Tian finally moves. I saw that he just lightly raised his hand. The action is flat, like driving a fly. What is incomprehensible is that with such an understatement, the gorgeous sword flowers, like fireworks, burst rapidly at the speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they dissipated and became invisible. That kind of feeling, like the leaves all over the sky, suddenly suffered the attack of Typhoon 12, autumn wind swept leaves, light, merciless and smooth. The appearance of this scene made the Lu family, who thought Wang Ming would surely occupy the mountain breeze,
looked dull and unbelievable.
How could that be? How can you break my skill? The people of the Lu family who are watching the battle are still like this, not to mention Wang Ming, who is fighting against Yi Tian. He can't believe it. He looks at the scene in front of him. He can't believe that he is doing his best and can be called a powerful means of pressing the bottom of the box. How can he be broken by Yi Tian so easily? Zheng. But before he could react, with a clear clang sound, when Wang Ming looked up, he immediately saw that the sharp sword he was holding was like ice. At this moment, it was Yi Tian's 2 fingers between his fingers. Moreover, no matter how he used his mana and fought hard, he didn't even move. It felt like someone had welded this sword tightly with Yi Tian's fingers and couldn't break free. Lost. I lost this scene, let Wang Ming's face, immediately as pale as paper. He lost, and just a move. To be exact, he made a move. Yi Tian didn't even make a move. He just held his sword casually. But there is no doubt that under such circumstances, it is absolutely easy for Yi Tian to kill him. He admitted that Yi Tian was very strong, but he didn't think that he would lose to Yi Tian. What's more, he didn't expect that he would lose so simply and thoroughly. How powerful and terrifying is this young man who looks like a college student? Funny, he had seen each other as a younger generation, even said to teach each other a lesson. Now, who's teaching who? Lost. I lost completely. At this moment, Wang Ming only felt a sharp pain on his cheek, and even a feeling of despair sprouted in his heart. He thought that at this age, he could achieve the later cultivation of heaven level, which was enough to be proud of many people. But now, compared with Yi Tian, he felt that at this age, he was just like living on a dog. With only one move, he was so easily defeated. A young man loses to a young man. He is defeated by one move. This way of losing is too ugly and makes people have no confidence. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. At this time, Yi Tian's fingers were infused with mana. With a flick of his power, he folded the sword between his fingers into 2 parts. In a moment, his body floated forward lightly, clapped it out with one hand, and knocked it down heavily on Wang Ming's dantian. Poof! A palm fell down, along Wang Ming's elixir field. A dull sound like a balloon burst immediately, followed by the breath of the heaven-level later cultivation realm sent out from Wang Ming, just like the flood burst the dike, and immediately disappeared. In the end, the breath of cultivation from his body disappeared in an instant, and finally he became an ordinary person. Similarly, in such a short period of time, although the hair was gray, there was still a kind of tiger-old Wang Ming. The whole person became as old as a few decades, old as a dragon, old as a candle, standing there, trembling, as if the wind was a little bit bigger, he would be overturned to the ground. It's a waste of my accomplishments. Wang Ming felt the whole body up and down, the unprecedented sense of terror and weakness, looked at Yi Tian in a hurry and murmured. Why, do you want me to take your life? The leaf day hears a sound, eyebrow tip lightly a pick, light way. He had advised Wang Ming before that it is not easy to practice, and it is not easy to achieve the present state. It is better to make a good choice and leave here. But unfortunately, Wang Ming didn't listen to the advice, not only didn't leave, but even gave him a sharp hand, and wanted his life. In this case, he just abandoned Wang Ming's cultivation, and didn't take the other's life, which was regarded as a kind-hearted man. Thank you, master. Wang Ming's lips moved, but he could not say a complete word. Finally, he knelt on the ground with bitter face and kowtowed to Yi Tian respectfully. He knew that, with Yi Tian's means, it was as easy as searching for things. But now, Yi Tian just abandoned his cultivation, and did not want his life, which is really kind-hearted. If he dares to have any resentment, he will really ask for trouble. At that time, Yi Tian was afraid that as long as he moved his fingers, he could make people die like a lamp out. How could that be? How is that possible? Grandfather Wang, how can you lose to him? What's going on? Grandfather Wang, how could he kneel down and kowtow to him? The appearance of this scene, let the Lu people, directly boiling. Everyone can't believe looking at this scene, look dull, eyes, full of can't hide the color of terror shock. This result is totally unexpected to them. They thought that Wang Ming could help them to clean up Yi Tian easily, just like those who dared to clean up with Lu Xiaofeng in the past.
But now, they just know that kind of thought in their heart is how wrong. In front of Yi Tian, Wang Ming is not even the enemy of Iha, but just a face-to-face encounter.
He is defeated by Yi Tian.
Wang Ming even knelt and kowed out to Yi Tianxia to thank him for saving his life.
Not long ago, they could not believe such a thing. You know, they have witnessed the power of Wang Ming, and in their eyes, many times, they even feel that Wang Ming is like a godlike power beyond the level of idlers. But now, the gods in their eyes kneel in front of others and thank them for not killing them. If they didn't see such a picture with their own eyes, they couldn't believe that it was actually happening in this world. Mr. Liu, in the meeting, and you have helped me a lot, I advise you to give up those wishful thinking. This elder is not what you Liu family can fight against. What he says and what you do is the best choice. Otherwise, waiting for your end will be more miserable than me. Just then, Wang Ming got up after kowtowing, turned his head and looked at Lu Shijun, word by word, and said in a deep voice. After speaking, Wang Ming looks at Yi Tian with complicated eyes, and then he is ready to leave. Master, may I venture to ask, what's your name? When passing by Yi Tian, Wang Ming wakes up and looks at Yi Tian respectfully. My name is Yi Tian. The Leaf Day hears a voice, light a smile, calmly said own name. Yi Tian, Yi Tian.
Wang Ming immediately felt that the name was very familiar. When he mumbled it several times, he looked at Yi Tian in disbelief and said in a trembling voice, "It's you I won't lose." Today's mountain people have never heard of Yi Tian, especially the means of destroying Tiamen with their own efforts, which has become the most fantasy of countless young generation of mountain people. And the same, such a strong life, how can Wang Ming not hear, the same, how can it be the opponent of the other party?
Even, at this moment, Wang Ming is extremely regretful. How can he think of it now and ask about Yi Tian's identity? If he had known that Yi Tian was the one the Liu family wanted to deal with, even if he was killed, he would not come to fight with the first man in Zhuanshan, and he would not be happy. However, he did not know, now Yi Tian, the wind than he knew, but also more powerful. Now, after the battle with Liu Bufan, the word Zhuan in his name can be completely removed. Not only that, he even changed the name of King Mingzong into Mingzong with his own strength. Standing on the opposite side of such a strong man, and even hoping to suppress him, it's really the eldest husband's arsenic. That is, Yi Tian doesn't care much about these false names. Otherwise, he can walk across the mountains just by saying his name. What are you going to do? And in Wang Ming heart sigh unceasingly, Yi Tian looking at the front of the Liu people, word by word, Light Hair asked. After a word, the Liu family became quiet. Everyone was silent and focused on Lu Shijun. I hope that the 100-year-old leader of the Liu family can eliminate this terrible disaster. As for the idea of defeating Yi Tian, at this moment, they dare not even think about it. Are you kidding? Even Wang Ming in the later stage of Tian level is not Yi Tian's opponent, let alone these people. The elder is powerful. We sigh for ourselves. Please draw a rough line. We will write off the past enmity and turn it into a bubble when we enter the body. Lu Shijun listens to Wang Ming's voice, and his heart is full of ups and downs. He can feel that Wang Ming is not joking with himself. Yi Tian's strength is immeasurable. If the Liu family wants to take a free hand, I'm afraid that the final result waiting for them is not the death of the fish, but the death of the fish, and the net is still stable. Under such circumstances, there is only one way left for the Liu family, which is to grovel and beg for Yi Tian's forgiveness. Please, master, let the Liu family go. After hearing this, Lu Shijun's eyes changed for a moment. He clasped his hands and gave a deep salute to Yi Tian. Then he said, if you can let the Liu family go, the Liu family is willing to give you a piece of jade or vein and 10% of the annual income of the Liu family to share with you. I hope you will accept a little sincerity. A jade or vein, 10% of annual income. As soon as they heard Lu Shijun's words, they immediately felt a pang of pain, as if they had been cut. But they also understand that this is Lu Shijun's forced decision. Otherwise, once Yi Tian is enraged, nothing will be left. As you know, it's just a little sincerity. But at this time, Yi Tian is full of mocking smile, looking at Lu Shijun, light way. Boom! When Yi Tian's words fall,
the Lu family immediately fry the pot, one by one, or shocked, or angry looking at Yi Tian. You know, the value of a jade or vein is more than several hundred million yuan, and the annual income of 10% is as high as 100 million yuan. This is absolutely a huge wealth. However, Yi Tian satirizes that their sincerity is too little. This is really outrageous. But how do they know that when they were in Haojiang, Yi Tian provided protection for the gambling master? What others took out was more than 10% of the income. And all this makes Yi Tian understand that these guys of the Lu family are really stupid. Even now, they can't see the current situation clearly.
I don't know what you want, Master Yi.
Lu Shijun also didn't expect that he had already offered such a high condition.
Yi Tian didn't even see his eyes. His eyes changed.
After a doubt, his voice was a little low, showing some threat. He said, I know, Elder Yi, you are very strong, but I don't believe that there are any immortal bodies in the world. We Lu family don't have any other guns, but there are still some fish dead. I don't think any of us would like to see it.
Are you threatening me?
Yi Tian hears the speech, raises eyebrow a smile, looking at Lu Shijun, light smile way.
How dare I threaten you? I'm just trying to reason with you.
Lu Shijun arched his hand at Yi Tian's random, and then slowly opened his mouth word by word, but his tone was still full of threat. Not only that, the words fell at the same time, he also quarreled with several Lu family members around to make a wink.
Wow! In a flash, standing in the rear, several Lu family members with black cloth in their arms pulled down the black cloth in their arms, and then revealed a few AK-47 flashing cold light. The muzzle of the black hole aimed at Yi Tian's position.
It seems that as long as Yi Tian dares to have a little abnormal action, they will press the trigger and let the merciless bullet take Yi Tian's life. Mr. Yi, there's a saying among the old Chinese people that if you see good things, you'll stop.
We Lu family know this very well. That's why we have a 400-year foundation.
With the gun in hand, Lu Shijun has his own courage. Seeing the 7 or 8 AK-47s, Lu Shijun's courage immediately grows up, word by word, and continues to threaten.
Do you think you can scare me with such a bunch of sticks?
Just see those black hole muzzle, Yi Tian's face, but don't have the color of a scent of fear. On the contrary, the color of ridicule becomes more and more rich.
Master Yi misunderstood. I'm not bluffing you, but reasoning with you. Lu Shijun heard Yi Tian's words, looked at Yi Tian and said calmly. Although Yi Tian has just defeated Wang Ming and seems to be extremely powerful, in his view, there may be something in the world where 2 fists can defeat 4 hands, but there will certainly not be a situation where 2 fists can defeat more than 10 guns, not to mention AK-47, which can be used for large area shooting. A shuttle swept past. Even if the other party is immortal, I'm afraid it will have to peel off the skin. He doesn't believe that at Yi Tian's age, even if he can be stronger than Wang Ming, he must be no better than an immortal. Although Lu's family has been keeping a low profile in Yudu and is unwilling to shoot, it's really hard to say who they are afraid of. In that case, I'll be frank. My purpose today is very simple. It's the same as what I said when I first came here. From tonight on, I don't want any more Lu family in Yudu. Yi Tian smiles indifferently, looking at Lu Shijun and says faintly. From tonight on, there will be no Lu family in Yudu. Hearing this, the Lu family immediately showed their angry faces in their eyes. They knew that Yi Tian was determined to fight them to the end. Yi, I think you have extraordinary skills. I respect you and call you master. But you don't really think that my Lu family is a soft persimmon. You can knead it as you like. Since you don't want to have a good time, don't blame us for being rude. Today, I want to see whether you are the soft persimmon or my Lu family is the soft persimmon. When Lu Shijun heard this, he was furious. His eyes were cold. He waved his hand and said coldly, "Shoot. Kill him." Lu Shijun's words fall down. The people with guns in the Lu family immediately put their hands on the trigger. The black muzzle of the gun is aimed at Yi Tian tightly. They want to take Yi Tian's life away with the roaring bullets and beat him into a sieve. Da-da, 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 da-da. In a flash, the sound of the bullet out of the chamber suddenly rang out, a series of eye-catching firelight, whistling, then swept toward the position of Yi Tian. Since you don't know what to do, don't blame me. Yi Tian's eyes were bright and sneered.
At the same time, his mind moved. The fierce sword suddenly appeared at his feet. Holding him, he suddenly soared into the air.
In the blink of an eye, people disappeared in the snow. Fly, it's flying. How did he fly? What's the matter? He has a flying sword. How can there be such a means in this world? The bullets roared, but there was no damage except the snowflakes.
This scene completely stunned all the Lu family. One by one, they were petrified.
They couldn't believe that they were looking forward, and their heads were buzzing. They are just a group of ordinary people.
They have never seen such a strange picture.
What's more, they can't understand how a living man can have the legendary fighting power of standing on a flying sword and flying into the sky. Is he really immortal?
Even at this moment, Lu's family could not help crying out. The words fell, and the hearts of the Lu family immediately clattered. For them, Yi Tian's means at the moment were no different from those of the Immortals.
He was so powerful that he couldn't believe it. Now, do you understand why I said these things in your hands are burning sticks?
But at this time, Yi Tian's voice is suddenly along behind them, suddenly sounded.
When did he show up behind us? As soon as the words came to our ears, everyone in the Lu family immediately went to hell in broad daylight. Their heads were buzzing, and they couldn't believe it.
You know, they just saw that Yi Tian was soaring up into the sky and flying towards the sky, but now he appeared behind them, and there was no sound.
They didn't even hear a sound.
The means communicate with God, the body method is like ghosts.
Fire, but not waiting for them to look back, along their back, once again came Yi Tian's dignified voice. Boom!
A word falls in the moment, along those Lu family members who are holding guns, in the void, suddenly there is a fierce flame rising.
Ah!
As soon as the terrible fire started, the family members of Lu, who were holding guns, immediately let out a terrible howl like killing a pig.
Pata Zila Pata, it's a good idea. Then, more incredible pictures appeared. Under the terrible fire, the AK-47 in the hands of the Lu family quickly turned red with the naked eye.
Finally, it turned into a pool of molten iron, dripping on the instep of the Lu family around them.
There were bursts of oil dripping on the burning mahogany charcoal and the smell of burning at the same time. The shrill howl is endless.
This scene let the Lu family completely into the extreme panic. They turned their heads in a hurry, looking toward the position of Yi Tian. But strangely, when they looked back, they found that Yi Tian was no longer behind them.
Similarly, they did not notice anything unusual. Who did you just say was a soft persimmon?
But at this time, with the help of Feng Dun, Yi Tian appeared in front of Lu Shijun from behind. He raised his hand and held his throat.
Who is the soft persimmon? When Yi Tian's words fell, many Lu family members fell into silence, especially Lu Shijun, whose body trembled and his eyes were full of strong prayers. At this moment, he already knew that he was very wrong. He thought that although Yi Tian was stronger than Wang Ming, he should not be able to defeat the ability of firearms. But now, he found out that in this world, there are really people who can regard firearms as nothing. Even, he felt that Yi Tian was like a powerful god. As for the Lu family, they were like tiny ants on the ground. As long as he wanted to, with a slight wave of his hand, they could be annihilated in the sky and the earth without any trace. Master, spare your life. I'm willing to take out half of my family property. No, I'm willing to take out 80% of my family property. I just hope you can forgive me. Without any hesitation, Lu Shijun prayed to Yi Tian. From the beginning, the annual income of 10% directly turned into 80% of his family property. He hoped that Yi Tian could hold high his hand and forgive his just act, so that he could continue to live. Now, don't you think it's too late? Killers, people always kill. Those who are rampant must be more rampant than you.
Remember these words. Yi Tian smiles indifferently, and his 5 fingers suddenly start to work. With a click on his neck, his head immediately falls on his shoulder. His life is like running water, and then passes away. As soon as Yi Tian's hand shakes, his body will fly high, and then he will be covered by the flame, turning into fly ash and gathering in the wind and snow. A person's life, in this way, passes away easily, even makes people feel as if he has never appeared in this world. Old man dead killed by him. Old man, how could this be? How could this be? How could my Lu family suffer such a disaster?
Damn it, what did my Lu family do wrong to suffer such a terrible disaster?
A famous Lu family member, looking at this scene, was stunned for a moment.
After a moment, he cried bitterly.
The cry was like a hurricane, sweeping across the sky. It was intertwined with the wind and snow, just like a ghost crying. It was so miserable that people could not help but feel like they could not bear to hear it.
Lu family, it's over.
In addition to the cry, everyone in the Lu family had the same idea. They know that since Yi Tian started to kill Lu Shijun, it means that he did not intend to give up easily. He must, as he said, destroy the Lu family, and let the Lu family, who has been in Yudu for more than 400 years, become a synonym of history and eventually be forgotten by everyone.
However, before the appearance of Yi Tian, and even at the moment when Yi Tian gang just appeared, did they ever think that the Lu family would encounter such a miserable situation? Overnight, because one person, the glory of 400 years, all disappeared in the long river of history. Once they stood high in the Jade Capital, they could shake the Jade Capital. They, from now on, will also be reduced to those who were trampled by them in the past. However, all this, although they are unwilling to let the heart, but there is no way to resist. After all, in front of Yi Tian, who is so powerful and terrible as a god, all he has to do is their fate. Joke, destroy you, everything of Lu family is mine, why should I share with you? Yi Tian looked indifferently at the dust scattered in the sky and the earth. After a smile, he turned to look at all the people in the Lu family and said faintly, recommend a person in charge to come out and deliver the jade mine, all the real estate and the cash flow to me.
I don't have much patience.
Don't let me get upset.
Yes. After that, a middle-aged man came out and began to register all kinds of Lu's properties in a hurry.
He delivered them to Yi Tian and transferred all the assets to Yi Tian's name.
He did not dare to make any fake. In this way, in an instant, the wealth transferred from Lu's name to Yi Tian's. The Lu family is worthy of being a famous family in Yudu for 400 years.
This wealth is really amazing. Yi Tian looked through the assets and sighed. Moreover, as Su Sanwang said, the wealth of the Lu family is not only concentrated in jade mines, but also in many industries of Yudu, such as hotels, KTV, hotels and so on. There are even several small casinos.
You know, in Yudu, apart from the jade mining business, the most profitable industries are these leisure industries.
One is that there are many merchants in Yudu.
The other is that jade miners want to be cool after a day's hard work or when they get high commission. The third is that stone gamblers, no matter whether they win or lose, must also want to release their emotions. The jade veins in the hands of the Lu family may be dug out one day, but as long as there are still ores in the Jade Capital, these businesses of the Lu family will continue forever, and will continue to prosper as usual, bringing huge wealth to their family. However, it is a pity that the hard work of Lu Shijun and the people of the Lu family in the past 400 years is to make a wedding dress for Yi Tian in the end. Everything will be owned by Yi Tian and become a channel for him to obtain wealth. Even a little bit will not be left for the Lu family. Master, all the industries of our Lu family in recent years are here.
Please let us go.
We promise to leave Yundu early tomorrow morning and never return to this place in this life. After the completion of the delivery, the Lu family looked at Yi Tian and constantly begged that he would give them a chance to live.
Where is the jade storehouse of the Lu family? Take me to have a look.
Don't tell me, you Lu family have lived in Yudu for 400 years.
After so many wars, you can't even build a secret storehouse against theft and fire. Of course, if you don't want to take me and I find it myself, you can imagine what will happen.
Yi Tian listened to the words of the Lu family.
After a non-committal smile, he looked at them and continued to think. The Lu family all looked at each other. After a moment's change, they nodded. Dejected, they took Yi Tian to their secret library.
Hiss. A moment later, Yi Tian followed several Lu family members and walked into a long secret road behind a rockery.
When he opened it, he could see that there was an open space full of the size of a basketball court in front of him. On the ground, there were stainless steel shelves filled with various kinds of jade, whether it was suet jade, or blood jade, or even ink jade. Some of the sculptures have been finished, and some of them present the original appearance.
But there is no doubt that, under the illumination of the light on the top of the house, pieces of jade, shining and interweaving, shrouded together, showing the so-called feeling of jewel to the point that can be called incomparable.
The whole room is full of gorgeous brilliance.
What's more, there is no doubt that these jades, once taken to the world, will cause a great sensation. The high price can hardly imagine that they will attract countless jade collectors' crazy pursuit, especially the half-human tall white suet jade, which I'm afraid even the ancient emperor can't own.
400 years of jade capital is really good. Even Yi Tian couldn't help sighing and sighing.
Although he had expected that the jade accumulated by the Lu family would reach an amazing level, he was shocked to see this amazing picture with his own eyes at this moment. According to his estimation, the total value of these jades is billions, even billions. Hearing the news, the Lu family all smiles bitterly. They feel that their hearts are dripping blood at the moment. This is all the details of the 400 years of the Lu family, enough for a family to come back to life, but today, they all have to change their surname to Yi.
Where is it?
But at this time, Yi Tian suddenly saw that in the depth of the secret room, there was a compartment sealed with a huge alloy code door.
It looked like it was heavily guarded. It seemed that there was something extraordinary in it. What's in here?
Seeing this, Yi Tian points to the alloy code door and asks the Lu family in a deep voice.
There is devil jade in it.
Hearing this, the Lu family members shuddered and said to Yi Tian.
Devil jade?
What devil jade? Make it clear. When Yi Tian heard this, he looked at the Lu family in surprise.
In his eyes, he was confused. He didn't understand what he meant.
He had never heard of similar kinds of jade. Not only that, he also saw that when the Lu family talked about the word devil jade, their faces showed a look of fear. The devil jade was excavated by my ancestors from an abandoned jade mine. They are very strange.
Under the dust of stone, there are jade. In the jade, there are some ferocious monsters.
Like the devil, they like to eat people's flesh and blood. They are called the devil. Therefore, we call these monsters the devil jade. However, although these demons are fierce and terrifying, if they stay in the original stone, they will be peaceful and will not be destroyed. Once they are broken, they will be extremely terrifying, causing killing and looting.
Lu family trembled, shivered, told Yi Tian the origin of the devil jade.
As he said, the so-called devil jade was discovered 200 years ago in the vein of the jade mine by the Lu family. At the beginning, living creatures were cut out of the jade. He thought that he could make a lot of money, even the legendary auspicious omen, to be dedicated to the imperial court. But I didn't expect that these monsters, or as any auspicious omen, are demons. They eat flesh and blood raw, and are extremely terrifying. Even, they almost turn the whole jade capital into a place of death. Fortunately, a passing expert, through the jade capital, suppressed the demons among the demons, and finally let the Lu family continue. Before he died, he told Lu's ancestors not to excavate the jade or vein, let alone disturb the monsters in the original stone. Otherwise, there would be terrible terror in Yudu. But the ancestors of the Lu family didn't listen to the expert's words and still dug the vein. However, they kept the devil jade in the secret library and decided that if one day the Lu family was in danger, they would take advantage of the devil jade and die together with those who dared to do harm to the Lu family. Lu Shijun had actually planned to take these demonic jade to coerce Yi Tian and die with him.
Unfortunately, Yi Tian's action was too fast.
Before he had time to do this, he had already died and Lu's family was completely destroyed.
There are monsters hidden in the jade. Yi Tian was shocked.
He had never heard of such a thing, but he faintly felt that all this might have something to do with the ancient practitioners in the mythical age.
You did it, didn't you?
Immediately after that, Yi Tian's eyes show the color of enlightenment, looking at all the people in the Lu family, and says in a deep voice. The jade mine of the Jade Emperor has repeatedly caused human death, which has led to no miners dare to enter the mine. This situation is exactly the same as the devil jade described by the Lu family.
This is the old man's decision.
Let's go to the Jade Emperor and ask him to give us some jade or veins, but he doesn't want to give them. The old man says that since the Jade Emperor really regards himself as the Emperor of the Jade capital, let these monsters take the Emperor down. The Lu family looked at each other, nodded, and then put the responsibility on Lu Shijun.
Sure enough. Yi Tian's eyes suddenly turned cold when he heard the news.
He knew that the reason why there was a problem in the jade mine of the Jade Emperor must be something strange, such as Insha. But he didn't expect that this strange thing was not caused by Lu Jili's use of mountain people in Insha, but by the use of this strange devil jade. However, there is no doubt that Lu Shijun's release of such a terrible monster is a waste of human life. This kind of ruthless guy really deserves to die. However, having said that, Yi Tian was very curious about the so-called devil jade. He wanted to know what kind of jade it was and what kind of monster it was.
Open the door.
Thinking of this, Yi Tian glanced at the people of the Lu family and said in a deep voice,
"This door can only be opened by every generation of Lu family owners. We need fingerprints and iris. We can't open it."
Hearing this, the Lu family shook their heads in a hurry, and their bodies were even more backward. Obviously, they were extremely afraid of the monsters in the devil jade.
"Can't you open it?" "I'll do it myself." Yi Tian hears the sound and is indifferent.
Immediately, he steps to the front of the alloy code gate. He holds the fierce sword tightly in his hand.
Immediately, he raises his hand to the alloy gate and lightly scrapes it. Just a few short efforts, so that the Lu people feel incredible scene appeared.
When it was built, the heavy and incomparable alloy gate, which was said by the designer that even explosives could not blow, was so easy that Yi Tian cut a hole in the shape of a human. If you don't see such a picture with your own eyes, who can believe that someone can have such great power and sharp sword?
Hiss.
When Yi Tian stepped into the secret room, he swept forward and immediately took a breath of air. As far as he could see, behind the alloy door, there was a space similar to the outside world.
But there was no alloy shelf in it.
Instead, there were mouthfuls of black original stones, each of which was as tall as a person.
The color was as black as carbon ink.
According to Yi Tian's estimation, there must be at least 100 pieces of raw stones here. What's more, at first glance, it makes people feel that what's piled up in front of them is not jade, but black coffins. Not only that, although separated from the stone skin of the original stone, Yi Tian could still feel that there was an extremely strange qi along the inside of the original stone. That kind of qi, like life is not life, like death is not death, such as in the rapid flow, gives a strange uneasy feeling.
"This is Lingyu in the spirit jade, breathes the life."
Hiss. And then, when Yi Tian released his mind and threw it at the original stones, he immediately felt that there were clear and pure spirit jade inside the original stones.
Each piece was not ordinary, and such a huge shape was extremely extraordinary.
But in the middle of those dazzling Lingyu, there is a tall shadow, which is exactly what the Lu family call the devil.
The shape of the shadow is very similar to that of the human body.
It has a head, limbs, arms and legs.
The head is similar, but it is a little bigger.
However, behind them, there are a pair of meat wings.
When they scan, they can't see hair.
They seem to be bald, and on their hands and feet, they have sharp claws like tigers and leopards. What's more strange is that Yi Tian penetrates the spirit jade with his mind. After carefully perceiving it, he immediately realizes that there is incomparable blood in the body of these demons, and even reaches the amazing level of approaching the 7th floor of the cave.
What are these things? Remains of ancient friars? Just, why do they want to seal these monsters in the spirit jade? What's more, how can these monsters look like people?
Yi Tian was very surprised, and his heart was full of confusion. He had been practicing Taoism and Feng Shui and Lingyu for 200 years, but he had never seen such a strange situation.
Well.
But at this time, a kind of uneasy situation suddenly appeared in Yi Tian's heart. It seemed that the vitality and spirituality of the monster originally confined in the original stone had not yet completely dissipated, and he could perceive his divine perception. When he was about to look at the other person's body, the monster who had been in Lingyu's sleep suddenly opened his eyes.
The eyes, no black pupil, only bleak pale.
The eyes, looking at him straight, treacherous, more greedy, like, is to break the original stone skin, tear him into blood food. The devil's name, used in them, is indeed not wrong. This thing, there is no spirit, only the instinct to kill. This vision, at first contact, immediately let Yi Tian's heart sink, and then he realized that the monster in the original stone had no ability to communicate with people, and the only thing left was the instinct to kill and survive.
Without any hesitation, Yi Tian's mind immediately withdrew from the original stone.
What the hell is this? Their breath is very old and seems to span endless time and time after the withdrawal of Shenyan. Yi Tian's mood is still not calm, and his mouth is murmuring.
There is no doubt that the origin of these things must be very remote. To a large extent, it may be the same as his conjecture that they are related to the ancient monks in the mythical age.
But, although I don't know what these monsters are, what Yi Tian can be sure is that once these monsters are released, it will definitely be a disaster for this heaven and earth. Undoubtedly, more than 100 monsters with 6 or 7 levels of the cave will cause disaster, which must be too terrible to imagine.
Life will be ruined.
Although Yi Tian has a heart to try to release a monster in the Devil Jade for further exploration, or even exchange views, to explore the secrets of them, but after pondering for a long time, he finally chose to give up. He doubted that although the monsters in the Devil Jade lack spirituality, they might have the instinct to rescue their companions. If we say that after releasing one end, it will release more monsters because of its carelessness, then the situation will collapse.
Here, no one can come any closer. Besides, you will leave Yudu from tonight. I don't want to see another Lu family in Yudu. With this in mind, Yi Tian finally chose to give up untying the original stone to find out. Instead, he planned to use the monster in the jade mine vein of the Jade Emperor to analyze an insight. He immediately reached out and grabbed the alloy pieces chopped up by the fierce soldiers' flying swords, and then melted them with the fire-burning technique to completely seal the gate. Even if other people could not blow them open with cannons, it would be full meaning nodded, immediately, looking at the stunned Lu people, word by word. Starting from tonight, I will leave Yudu. Starting from tomorrow, I don't want to see a Lu family in Yudu anymore. Yi Tian's words fell, and the look of the people of the Lu family immediately became hasty. 400 years of foundation, 400 years of glory, 400 years of heritage, at this moment, completely draw the end. However, I'm afraid the ancestors of the Lu family who created this family property could never have imagined that all the things they worked so hard to create were destroyed just because of one person. It's just that this person's strength was beyond their expectation, just like a god. Yes, however, under the extreme power of Yi Tian, although they were unwilling, they didn't dare to resist at all. They could only sigh and nod, and they should do everything. Next, a Lu family, like a lost dog, reluctantly looks at everything in the ancestral home and turns to leave. Although they didn't give up, they knew that it was a fluke for them to survive. After all, according to Yi Tian's ability, if you want their lives, you can achieve it. The wind and snow swaying, spanning the Yudu for 400 years, the brilliant Lu family, in this way, came to an end. But this storm will not subside. Tomorrow morning, it will sweep the whole Yudu like the most terrible hurricane, causing endless waves. At the same time, Yi Tian's mind moves. After putting all the jade in the secret room into the storage ring, he rises with his sword and rushes to the stall. The wine is still warm. Ning Shui and Su San Wang are still waiting for his news. He wants to go back early so that these people won't worry. You too, do you know what that monster was? On the way to the big stall, Yi Tian sends a message to Tai Sui and the secret hand. He wants to know whether they know the clue of the monster. I've never seen such things before, but I can feel that they have a very strange chi. It's better not to touch them easily, otherwise, you may get into trouble. Tai Sui gave a negative answer and warned Yi Tian. Bullshit, just like them, fools know it's weird. The secret hand disdains to retort to Tai Sui. You're so good. Tell me, what are they? Tai Sui is furious and questions the secret hand, asking it to give an answer. The secret hand was speechless. After a while, he said, I think they are very familiar with this kind of situation. It seems that I have seen them somewhere. But for a moment, I really can't remember it. I have to think about it again. Haha, think of the end of time. Tai Sui sneered coldly. Lousy never deceives people. Let me think about it carefully, and I will come up with the answer. The secret hand was furious and said angrily. Tai Sui sneered at himself, as if mocking the exaggerated words of the secret hand. He was so angry that the secret hand was furious that he wanted to fight again. Yi Tian listens to the noise of the two, shakes his head in tears and laughter,
but he is too lazy to pay attention to the two goods. He puts them into the storage ring, which makes the world clean again. The speed of the fierce soldier's flying sword was very fast. It was only a short time before he reached the stall. Tian by the wind and snow, fell on the ground, stepping on the wind and snow, walked back to the stall.
Brother Yi. As soon as Su Sanwang saw Tian's figure, he immediately stood up, his face full of uneasiness.
Although Tian's return has shown whether his trip is successful or not, there are still some doubts in his mind. After all, the Lu family has been in Yudu for 400 years. It is unimaginable that they have a profound foundation. And not long ago, they heard the terrible gunfire like fried beans. Tian's body, of course, is not gun, so the only possible use of firearms, no doubt, is the Lu family. Although Tian is powerful, a gun can't scare him, but the sound of the gun is obviously not a gun, and it's not a hunting gun. He felt that with the blessing of firearms, perhaps Tian would return without success.
Ning Shui looks at Tian with the same hope, and wants to know the final answer. Is the wine warm?
Tian did not give a direct answer, but looked at Ning Shui with a smile and asked.
Just right, it's just hot now.
Rather snow-smell speech, quickly take out the bottle, give Tian poured a glass of wine this moment, just right temperature, in the cold weather, upward swaying slightly white steam.
Good wine. Tian took up his glass and drank it.
He immediately felt that the chill brought by the wind and snow was dispelled by the strong wine in an instant.
Brother Yi, don't play the game.
Tell us what the result is?
I just heard the gunshot. Are you okay? How's the Lu family doing?
Su Sanwang looks at Tian's appearance, a burst of laughing and crying, toward him, curious to ask. As soon as a word falls, the ears of the people around the stall all rise.
I want to know what kind of answer Tian will give.
If this is a futile words, then Tian left before, said those words, but also to face. But think about it, even if Tian loses, it's normal. A family with 400 years of history, plus guns, no matter how strong a person is, he's not an immortal.
How can he say that he can easily destroy each other? Lu family? What's the Lu family? This jade capital, from now on, has no Lu family.
When Tian heard Su Sanwang's words, he put down his wineglass and said calmly with a faint smile.
This jade capital, from now on, has no Lu family. Hearing this, Su Sanwang's expression immediately stagnated. He looked at Tian in disbelief.
At this moment, he felt his head humming.
It's not just him. Around the stall, those people who are eavesdropping with their ears up are all absent-minded and full of disbelief.
400 years of aristocratic family, 400 years of glory, 400 years of details, just like this, it's only time to warm up a pot of wine, and then it's gone?
Lu family, it's over.
At this moment, everyone's heads are buzzing, and they can't believe their ears. You know, the Lu family had a foothold in Yudu for 400 years. After the rise and fall of the dynasty and the war, they still stood firm. But now, just because of one person, they have been destroyed.
It's hard to believe.
Needless to say, all this happened in a short time of warming a bottle of wine.
Is this guy bragging?
Even at this moment, a bold idea suddenly appeared in many people's heads.
They thought that Tian might be talking nonsense. The fact is not consistent with what he said. God, you see, my friend photographed that Lu's house is empty now, and the people of Lu's family are leaving. It's not just Lu's house. The rest of Lu's family are making sense of their own things. They are choosing to leave. The tickets to leave Yudu are almost sold short. Lu family, it's really over this time.
In this way, the 400-year-old family is destroyed and no longer exists. But then, someone picked up the mobile phone and screamed out. What they saw on the screen was the picture of Lu's family and Lu's house. Not only that, but also someone pointed out the ticket and ticket booking interface of Yudu and found that the tickets and tickets leaving Yudu had been sold out in recent years. All this shows one thing, that is, Tian didn't lie, Lu family was really destroyed by him.
After all, how could the people of the Lu family choose to leave Yudu if they didn't worry that there would be no eggs left under the cover of the nest?
At this moment, everyone's eyes are closely watching Tian, who is pouring and drinking from himself. The shock in his heart is like the earth shaking. The 400-year-old family just disappeared in the time of warming a bottle of wine. How powerful is this guy? Brother Yi, great. I'll take it. Su Sanwang listened to this sentence, his head was also buzzing. Finally, he shook his head with a wry smile, and then gave a deep gift to Yi Tian, exclaiming. He has been in Yudu for so many years, and he has met many people who can be regarded as strong as a dragon in the river. However, compared with Yi Tian, those people are not comparable. In other words, those guys are not river-crossing dragons at all. They are river-crossing insects at most. Yi Tian is the real dragon. In the same way, only in this way can he make Lu's family disappear in a moment. And how can he not be convinced by all this? How can he say I'm convinced? Drink, drink. Yi Tian smiles and waves his hand. He looks at Su Sanwang and says calmly. It's just a Lu family. He didn't pay much attention to it. One of the 3 sects and 6 sects like Tai clan was destroyed by him alone. What's more, it's just a secular family. Needless to say, when he was practicing in Fengsu and spiritual realm, there were countless sects destroyed. This kind of feeling, for him, is already numb, will not let the mood have any waves. We don't have to find someone to buy jade anymore. The jade veins of the Lu family are ours now. You can find someone to mine them here in the future, and we can produce and sell them by ourselves. Immediately after that, Yi Tian smiles to Ning Shui, turns his head and looks at Su Sanwang, and says, Brother Su, I will have to give you trouble in the future. Although there are some signs that Lu's jade veins are drying up and no high-quality jade can be found, the one that consumes the most amount of Shuaji ointment is actually not the best jade like Lanji white jade. Ordinary grade jade is enough. What's more, selling raw materials is never a business to make money. Reprocessing and selling with its own brand make the most profit. Brother Yi, don't worry, I will try my best to help you. However, I don't think I need to help you at all with your ability. Su Sanwang nodded without thinking, followed by, sighed repeatedly. As he said, with Yi Tian's strength, even if he is not in the jade capital in the future and runs the jade mining business himself, who dares to blow hair in front of his people? The 400-year-old Lu family has been cut off lightly by Yi Tian, which is a bloody lesson. But for all of you, I'm afraid that only a fool can do that kind of stupid thing, causing trouble, and following the Lu family's footsteps. You can't even use the warm wine time, and then you will die. Ha ha ha, let's borrow Brother Su's good words. Cheers. Yi Tian smiles and raises his glass to Su Sanwang again. This time, it can be said that both the guests and the host were very happy. Su Sanwang was very drunk. Even Yi Tian was slightly drunk. Ning Shui was flushed with pink cheeks, and his face was full of drunkenness. Although it was lighter than Su Sanwang's, he left with a bit of a stagger step. Yi Tian has no choice but to help her and let Ning Shui lean on her body like a pool of soft spring mud. The soft, boneless touch and round shape, which can be clearly perceived even through the heavy down jacket, make Yi Tian's breath and heart beat faster. A moment later, Su Sanwang's disciples came by car. One left with Su Sanwang, while the other went back to the hotel with Yi Tian and Ning Shui. After drinking, I am most afraid of bumps. As soon as the car bumps, and the heating in the car is so hot, Ning Shui's drinking will come up completely. The whole person nestles tightly in Yi Tian's arms. Moreover, no matter whether he resists or not, his hands tightly embrace him and don't let him push away. Yi Tian tries to struggle a few times, but sees Ning Shui holding too tightly, and his face is a little uncomfortable, so he can only give up. And think of, to the evening, 2 people also want to share a room. Yi Tian can't help but some big head, don't know what will happen. Yi, I'll go back first. You can have a rest earlier. This is my phone. If you need anything, please call me at any time. A moment later, the car came to the door of the hotel. After stopping, Su Sanwang's apprentice quickly handed Yi Tian a business card and said respectfully. At this moment, the news that the Lu family has been destroyed by Yi Tian has spread all over the Jade capital. Everyone is shaking with this young man with amazing strength. The younger generation completely regards Yi Tian as an idol. After all, it's really amazing to destroy the 400-year-old family by themselves.
Su Sanwan's apprentice is no exception. Well, thank you. Yi Tian smiles and nods.
After putting the business card into his pocket, he takes Ning Shui and goes to the hotel room. Along the way, everyone's eyes on Yi Tian were full of respectfulness. The front desk lady trotted to help Yi Tian open the door of the hotel lobby, and then sent him into the elevator. That kind of respectfulness can be said to be beyond the limit. After all, this hotel is also the industry of the Liu family.
After the collapse of the Liu family, it is Yi Tian's. When employees see a new boss, they naturally have to work hard to make a good impression on the boss. A moment later, Yi Tian walked into the hotel room with Ning Shui on his back.
Although the girl was a little clumsy after she got drunk, she still had a clear mind and a lot of courage.
After all, drinking makes people brave.
After entering the room, without waiting for Yi Tian to put her down, her two hands tightly hooped Yi Tian's neck. The fragrant and hot breath sent out along the nose and lips made Yi Tian's ears and cheeks itch, and her heart was full of ups and downs.
Yi Tian, do you like me?
Suddenly, Ning Shui asks Yi Tianfa with wine strength.
Yi Tian did not speak, pretending not to hear.
The answer in his heart is like, or rather like, but that feeling is different from that between him and Ning Yao. Ning Shui didn't wait for the answer, but he didn't stop. The warm fragrant smell in his mouth sprayed on Yi Tian's ear, put it close to his ear, and continued, Yi Tian, I like you, do you like me?
It's not like friends, it's like lovers. It's not a friend's love, it's a lover's love. Yi Tian is silent.
He knows that no matter whether he is drunk or not, Ning Shui is really poking through the last layer of window paper at this moment and confessing to himself.
Yi Tian, I like you. Do you like me?
Just when Yi Tian is silent, the warm breath in Ning Shui's mouth comes back to his ear, and he asks again. The warm air flow around Yi Tian's ears, as if there were thousands of feathers tickling in his ears.
You're drunk.
After Yi Tian is a little silent, he wants to put Ning Shui down from his back, but he tries to find that Ning Shui's hands are tightly around his neck. Even if his hands are loosened, they still stick to his back and refuse to loosen a cent. I'm not drunk.
Even if I'm drunk, I'll tell the truth after drinking. Ning Shui drunk, really become a lot of bold, stubborn refuted Yi Tian, mouth in Yi Tian's cheek forced kiss. Wait, you tell the truth, do you like me?
That touch, although just like a dragonfly, but that soft and moist, but still let Yi Tian heart involuntarily slightly swing. Young frivolous sorrow, this body, really is not worthy of his noble soul as emperor. However, such a young body, in the face of such a delicate beauty confession, it is really some difficult to resist. At this moment, Yi Tian is no exception. His heart is like a cat's paw tickling.
It's itchy. It's like a devil roaring in his heart. Are you still a man? Promise her. Push her down, or you won't be a man. But there is a kind angel who scolds him in righteous words. Think about Ning Yao, think about Qin Luo God. If you agree, if you do anything, do you deserve them? Would the two of them like you to do this again? You're really drunk. Let's have a rest first. If you have anything, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Finally, Yi Tian said slowly to Ning Shui behind him, and he was ready to put her down. Then he left the room and went outside to find a place to spend the night, so as not to happen anything. Although he wanted to promise Ning Shui, he knew better that his liking for Ning Shui was not as strong as that of Ning Yao and Qin Luoshan. If we say that now, his head is hot and impulsive, and he has done something. If he loves her more and more and his feelings get better and better in the future, then everything will be fine. But if something happens later, in case he fails her, it will not delay Ning Shui. Therefore, he must be cautious and can't make a decision easily. As for Ning Yao and Qin Luoshan, Yi Tian never doubted himself at all. He was sure that he would stick to his will and never change his mind all his life. But he didn't have 100% confidence in Ning Shui. In other words, he was worried that the impulse would turn into the guilt in the future. Not to mention, Ning Shui is drunk now, consciousness is not enough sober, if oneself do what to her now, that became to take advantage of others' danger?
Don't go. I'm not drunk. I just like you. Do you like me or not?
But at this time, Ning Shui as tightly hugged him, constantly asking questions, repeated again and again, a moment of effort, repeated dozens of times. Looking at the beauty with red cheeks in front of him, Yi Tian's heart is rippling, and he really can't help but want to agree. At this time, Ning Shui has tightly clasped his neck with her hands, and the delicate red lips are constantly sent to his cheeks and lips. The delicate and charming red lips approached, and Yi Tian immediately felt that his cheek was soft, crisp, and itchy. Even the red lips were tightly attached to his lips, and the cherry snake with a faint aroma of wine extended to his mouth and stirred it gently. Yi Tian's whole person is stunned. He really didn't expect that Ning Shui would be so brave after he got drunk, and he gave himself such a hand. But the next moment, Yi Tian will make a little effort to break free from the gentle trap of Ning Shui.
Yi Tian, I really like you. Do you like me or not?
Ning Shui's voice has already brought up the cry cavity. Send out the Inquisition to the Leaf Day again. Want him to reply to oneself. Yi Tian looks at Ning Shui's appearance. He feels, if say, at the moment Ning Shui said these words, maybe 6 drunk, but also for sincere, can't help hesitating a little, and then slowly weigh, if say a little also don't like, that must be false, but I'm afraid I will fail you, make you sad.
I'm not afraid.
Rather Snow hears a sound, obstinately shook head, the attitude is firm and incomparable.
But I'm afraid I don't want to hurt you.
Yi Tian can't help but feel a little soft in his heart. He can't help sighing, raising his hand, gently rubbing the soft hair on Ning Shui's head, and expressing his inner thoughts.
He knows that blindly escaping is not a good way. It's better to make things clear with Ning Shui. Only in this way can they be both at ease. That is, you don't love me enough?
I will try my best to make you fall in love with me completely and never leave me again. Ning Shui is muddled, holding Yi Tian's hand tightly and vowing. Well, go to sleep, I promise you, and wait for that day.
Yi Tian smiles bitterly and shakes his head.
He persuades him to change his way of thinking. He no longer refuses directly, but twists and turns. He hopes that Ning Shui can calm down and have a good sleep, so as not to happen more drastic things than just now. At that time, his vicissitudes of soul may not be able to defeat this young body.
I want to hear you sing me nursery rhymes and coax me to sleep.
Rather Snow rely on pet and proud, tightly hold Yi Tian's arm, to his coquetry way. Leaf Day helpless, can only smile and nod, and then ponder for a moment, think of his mother when he was a child to coax himself to sleep, then gently hum to Ning Shui. In the melodious singing, Ning Shui hugs Yi Tian's arm tightly. After a long time, along her nose, there is a low snore, and on that pretty little face, there is a sweet smile, which should be a sweet dream.
Sleep well.
Yi Tian looks at Ning Shui's appearance, gently pulls out his arm, touches Ning Shui's hair, then goes to the balcony, opens the window, defends the sword, disappears in the wind and snow. He needs to use the wind and snow to calm his heart.
I will make you like me.
And almost at the moment when Yi Tian leaves, Ning Shui's eyes, which were closed tightly, suddenly open, with perseverance, word by word. In fact, she has just regained some soberness, but all that, beautiful as a dream, made her some can't bear to wake up, hoping that time can stay in this moment forever. Similarly, she hopes that every day in the future will be as beautiful as the moment just now.
Boy, you are too frustrated. That girl likes you so much. After sleeping, what do you want to do? MOMOG, I don't have the spirit of a friar of my generation.
Those masters I used to have, which one was not a decision to kill, so which one was my favorite nun, and reached out and grabbed it. At the same time, in the wind and snow, Yi Tiangang sat down with his knees crossed to absorb the wisps of aura contained in the wind and snow. Then he heard the voice of the mysterious hand coming along the Shumi commandment. Although I don't deal with mysteries, I want to agree with him this time. I have a master who said, if you like, go to sleep. Tai Sui also spoke at the right time, and for the first time agreed with the words of the secret hand.
A bunch of vulgar things. You know Yi Tian despises him, but he is alert to what he will do next time. It seems that he will be forbidden, so as not to be visited by these two goods.
Fortunately, nothing happened between him and Ning Shui, otherwise, they would have been watching.
Haha, we are vulgar, you are elegant, don't tell me, you elegant people like not to sleep. Tai Sui despises refutation.
Yi Tian is speechless and shakes his head. Like, naturally want to sleep, but he wants, not a physical pleasure, but a blend of love and flesh. These, Tai Sui and secret hand of this evil things, how can understand?
Affectation, affectation.
I've been greedy for you for hundreds of years, but you're still so hypocritical.
Tai Sui and his secretive hand sneer at Yi Tian's words. They are indifferent to Yi Tian's words. You too, you know what?
What I insist on is the difference between man and beast, Yi Tian said coldly, and immediately his hand swung gently, and his eyes glanced at the wind and snow in front of him. When he saw the mountains that meandered like dragons and swam in the wind and snow, he felt more agitated, and the whole world became peaceful for a moment. It's time to break through the 8th floor of the cave. Thinking of this, Yi Tian suddenly makes a decision. The next breath, the golden black fire half-immortal soldier's Dan furnace suddenly appeared in the air, and then, his original spirit fire surging, continuous flame, with the speed of incomparable, suddenly, it ignited the fire in the Dan furnace, like a golden black, around the Dan furnace, flying around, sending out a smart breath. Even more, the blazing firepower melted all the snowflakes in the area where the Dan furnace was located into water, then evaporated into gas, circled and ascended, and flew into a vacuum zone.
Good furnace. Good furnace. Good furnace. Feeling the vision of Donlu, Yi Tian's heart is full of praise.
Compared with the amethyst red stove he used before, the quality of this golden black fire semi-immortal red stove was better. At this moment, he really had a feeling of returning to the square-inch spirit realm and achieving the power of the Emperor.
Nirvana Dan, system.
Then, without any hesitation, Yi Tian lifted his hands lightly, and a miraculous drug stored in Shumi commandment soared into the air. Under the guidance of mana, it was processed. Finally, all the impurities were eliminated, turned into pure medicine, and integrated into the Dan furnace.
Ding ding ding.
Almost just a short time, along the Dan stove, there were bursts of pure and incomparable sound of quenching Dan, and with the circling of gold and black, there were more strands of rich medicine fragrance, along the Dan stove, spread to the surrounding, and even mixed into the surrounding floating snow, let the snow, all diffuse a rich fragrance.
What happened?
Why is it that the colorless and tasteless snow has such a strong fragrance that I can't help feeling like I have a big appetite?
Environmental pollution.
This must be some unscrupulous chemical factory, put the aromatic substances into the high air, mixed with the snow bullshit environmental pollution, except for Jade Factory. What chemical factory is there in Yudu?
And the smell of pollution can be like this. I smell, feel relaxed? If it's pollution, then I'm willing to continue to pollute like this.
The fragrance diffuses. The strange fragrant snow immediately makes the people who haven't fallen asleep under the wind and snow give out bursts of frightened voices and whisper.
They are extremely curious.
They want to know what is the cause of the strange fragrant snow that they have never heard of or seen. Some people think that this is caused by environmental pollution, but this argument was quickly refuted by a large number of people. The fragrant snow not only smells very fragrant, but also feels refreshed after inhaling into the body. Especially those who try to catch a handful of fragrant snow in the air and swallow it in the mouth feel exhausted. The whole person has an unprecedented sense of happiness at this moment. I can't feel the ease, even some minor ailments and pains that have existed for many years. For a time, Yuda Shangshua said, filling the internet, and even in the middle of the night, directly on the top of the hot search, followed by a red to black pop word.
Yi Tian knew nothing about what happened below.
At this moment, he was immersed in the process of refining the Nirvana pill.
The Dan furnace of Jinwu Fire Banxian soldiers is very mysterious.
When the Dan was finished, the Dan furnace had become transparent, showing the shape of the Dan medicine. Moreover, a little bit of Jinwu breath flew into the Dan medicine, and it complemented each other, so that the quality of the Dan medicine was greatly improved.
Dan's done it.
When all the visions of the red stove disappear, Yi Tian whispers.
In a moment, he gently moves his hand towards the void.
The red stove of Jinwu Fire Banxian soldier suddenly flies into his palm. He gently touches the lid of the stove and grabs the red medicine in his palm.
The 8th floor of the cave, here I am.
Immediately, Yi Tian raised his hand, and the Nirvana pill in the stove flew up. He swallowed it and turned it into wisps of pure medicine and vitality, which spread out to all parts of his body. Just for a moment, he felt that his body had been baptized. Every piece of flesh and blood, every bone, even the spirit, at this moment, seems to be undergoing a transformation like rebirth. All this is similar to cutting bones and washing marrow, but it is different.
It is more like the phoenix bathing in fire and the feeling of nirvana. From then on, the body will become a channeling jade. This is the power of nirvana pill. Similarly, the origin of nirvana is just like this. The 8th floor of the cave, here I am.
In an instant, Tian's eyes, which were originally slightly narrowed, opened, and 2 phynons flew out of his eyes like lightning. For a moment, a breath, like a storm, quickly spread along the pores. Taking his body as the center of the circle, all the drifting wind and snow around him within a range of nearly 1,000 meters were washed to the 4 directions, creating a large vacuum area. Immediately after that, his mind, like a big net, suddenly covered the surrounding area, and every move of the people below, all fell into his eyes, as if the houses were completely transparent. Not only that, but also Tian felt that every piece of flesh and blood, every bone in his body, at this moment, was filled with an explosive new force, which was extremely terrifying. Even Tian felt that as long as he wanted to fight forward, he could make a tank turn into fly ash and disappear. Compared with the 7th floor of the cave, the 8th floor of the cave is really like nirvana, which is a huge watershed. However, this promotion is very timely. It can give me more chances to win when dealing with the monsters escaping from the Devil Jade. This kind of feeling let Tian suddenly pinch 5 fingers, will that strong strength, all back to the depth of the body skeleton, murmur to himself in the heart. As he said, those monsters in the Devil Jade are extremely powerful. As far as he feels, they are even more powerful than those who come. Such an opponent is by no means easy to deal with. With his previous strength of 7 levels in the cave, if he fought alone, or against 1 or 2 of them, he would still be invincible. But if Lu Shijun was a little crazy and put more monsters into the jade veins of the Jade Emperor, he would be in trouble. This time, he was able to break through the 8 levels of the cave, which undoubtedly increased the possibility of winning several points or retreating completely. Now, just wait for the Jade Emperor to come to the door. Tian looks at the wind and snow in front of him. After a light smile, he thinks in his heart. He believes that the Jade Emperor must have learned that he destroyed the Lu family with his own efforts. If, under such circumstances, the Jade Emperor did not expect to come to him for help, then it means that this guy is really stupid and not worth saving. He just needs to look at Lu Yenzhou's face and give him a way to live. After all, for him now, it is a dispensable thing whether he can get the Jade Emperor's jade or veins after he owns the Lu family's jade or veins. Thinking of this place, Tian's sword suddenly turns back to the hotel. When he entered the room, he found that Ning Shui was still sleeping. He was a little relieved. He helped her pour a cup of hot water and put it on the head of the bed. Once he woke up, he could take some to drink. Then he lay on the sofa and swam around. Time passed quickly, and the time of the night passed quickly. Tian, did you sleep all night? I'm sorry. In the early morning, Ning Shui finally wakes up. When she needs her sleepy eyes, she is moved and sorry to see Tian Ho leaning on the sofa beside the bed. She was awake last night, but after Tian left, she thought about it 7 times and 8 times, and finally fell asleep. Unexpectedly, one night later, she saw Tian lying like this. She knows, Tian does so, it is gentleman, it is a kind of respect to her more. Haha, it's okay. It's nothing for me to rest like this. Tian smiles and shakes his head. He is slightly relieved in his heart. Anyway, Ning Shui is not so crazy at the moment. I drank too much last night, didn't I? Rather. Snow hears a sound, after carefully looking at eye toward Leaf Day, cheek blush, murmur away. However, before she finished her words, thinking of what happened last night, her head fell down, her cheeks were full of blush, and she could not say a word more. Although she was still conscious last night, she was still numb under the stimulation of alcohol. In retrospect, all kinds of things that happened last night, especially the kiss and the picture of pestering Tian to sing children's songs to make her sleep, still made her feel excited and moved, and unavoidably embarrassed. For a moment, Tian doesn't know what to say. He pretends that nothing happened last night, which is pure guilty conscience. But if he says nothing, it's all his own work, but he inevitably feels a little strange. For a moment, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became solidified, and there was a kind of ambiguous atmosphere flowing between them. What's the matter downstairs? Why is it so busy? But just when Tian didn't know what to say, he suddenly heard the noise coming from the window.
You know, the two of them live on the 16th floor. No matter what happens downstairs, the sound should be very small. But now the noise outside is very big. It's like something terrible has happened. Without any hesitation, Tian immediately came to the window and glanced down. As far as he could see, a black lengthened Maybach was stopping downstairs. A middle-aged man, who looked quite handsome and wore a black overcoat, was standing at the door of the hotel at this moment. Although it's snowy outside, just standing in the wind and snow, the floating snowflakes can make people look like a snowman, chilly to the bone, but the middle-aged man seems to have no feeling at all, still standing in the snow, even dare not move. It seems that the next breath will become a statue. Around the hotel, a lot of people gathered, far away from the middle-aged man, but there was constant noise. Moreover, unlike ordinary stars, none of these people took out their mobile phones to shoot anything. They only dared to gather around, mutter, or even point out that appearance, as if in this middle-aged man's body, there is a kind of heavy pressure. It's time to come, it's time to come. Tian stares at the middle-aged man and then smiles. He turns to Ning Shui and says, "Clean up. Let's go down and meet the famous Jade Emperor." Originally, he is the Jade Emperor. Ning Shui hears the sound, can't help but be stunned. After looking down through the window, she can't help but look at Tian again. Her mind is complicated and shows her admiration. Before she came to Yudu, she had been thinking about how to meet the famous Jade Emperor. She was even ready to shut the door and try to find a way. However, she didn't expect that today, the Jade Emperor was standing in the snow in front of the wine shop, waiting for them. The well-known Jade Emperor is standing in the wind and snow. It's such a shock in the Jade capital. No wonder these people around him are so surrounded. What she knew better was that all this was because of Tian. If it wasn't for Tian's destruction of the Lu family overnight, then the Jade Emperor would not wait for them in the wind and snow in any case. A moment later, Ning Shui finished cleaning up and followed Tian downstairs. "You chair, I've met Mr. Yi. I didn't take Brother Lu's words seriously. I underestimated Mr. Yi. I hope you'll forgive me." As soon as he saw Tian coming out of the hotel, the Jade Emperor's eyes immediately lit up, followed closely, strode forward, and walked to Tian. After a respectful salute, his face was full of bitterness, and he sighed to Tian. It was the young man who was waiting for the Jade Emperor in the snow. The Jade Emperor language falls at the same time, the eyes of those onlookers around, immediately toward Tian cast in the past. They have already guessed that the one who can make the Jade Emperor stand there and wait must be a very important person, but no one thought that the Jade Emperor should be so young and look like a college student. It's not just these people. When Emperor Yu saw Tian, he was also filled with endless emotion. But he knew that he should never underestimate Tian because of his age, because according to the news he received, this young man, who looks like a college student, will cut off Lu's family, who has been flourishing for 400 years in Yudu. You know, even now in Yudu, everyone calls him the Jade Emperor, but he asks himself, even if he takes out all his strength, I'm afraid he can't even fight with the Lu family. There is a great probability that although the Lu family has received some trauma, they can continue to live well, but everything he has turned into a bubble. If he dares to underestimate this young man, then the fate of the Lu family last night may not be his today. It's reasonable that Emperor Yu is busy with business. Tian smiles and shakes his head, calms down. When Emperor Yu heard this, his face became more and more embarrassed. If he had known that Tian was so powerful, he would not hesitate to see Tian after receiving Lu Yinzhao's phone call, instead of waiting until now. However, there is no doubt that his distrust, as well as his hesitation and humility, will inevitably require him to bring out a lot of benefits in order to recover. Mr. Yi is joking. It's Yu Chair who has eyes and doesn't know Taishan. The Jade Emperor shook his head with a bitter smile, followed closely, looked at Tian sincerely and expectantly, and said, "Mr. Yi, I like to have something to say, but I don't like to beat around the bush. There are some big problems in my jade mine. It seems that there are strange things in the jade mine. As long as the workers go in to search for jade, there will be a few screams, and then there will be no return. This time I come here, I hope Mr. Yi can help you give me a hand. As long as you are willing to help me, I can give you 3 jade veins. In addition, I am willing to show some sincerity."
You can also go to my storehouse and choose any 100 jades.
3 veins, choose 100 jade. Rao is Yi Tian.
Now he has got some jade veins from the Lu family. But when he heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little lost.
The combination of the 4 is a great wealth. However, it can be seen from this that the sincerity of the Jade Emperor is much stronger than that of the Lu family. However, although the price was very high, the Jade Emperor was sure to make a steady profit. After all, if Yi Tian doesn't help and let those jade mines continue to be shrouded in the shadow of terror, what he will face at that time is not just to lose just 3 jade mines, but all the veins in his hands will disappear and become nothing. If he lost the 3 jade veins, what he could get was to continue to maintain the strength of the Jade Emperor.
Since you are happy, Emperor Yu, I don't want to be hypocritical. I'll say no more.
It's settled.
Yi Tian, hearing the speech, looked at the Jade Emperor with a smile, and then said, "Let's go."
It's not too late. Let's go to your jade mine now. Mr. Yi, don't you set up a document or something? Are you afraid I'll go back?
The Jade Emperor didn't expect that Yi Tian's reply was so crisp that he didn't even have a letter.
Do you think it's necessary?
Yi Tian hears the sound, raises eyebrow a smile, light way.
The Jade Emperor hears speech, immediately dumbfounded.
The written evidence is aimed at those who believe what they say. It's useless for those who don't believe what they say to set up a written evidence. However, the former man who didn't keep his promise in front of Yi Tian is now 400 years old.
His foundation has been destroyed. Even with his 100 courage, how dare he repeat it?
Mr. Yi, this way, please. Thinking of this, the Jade Emperor shook his head with a bitter smile, and then turned to Yi Tianhe and Ning Shuedao respectfully.
Good.
Yi Tian nodded slightly, then with Ning Shui, under the leadership of the Jade Emperor, sat in the lengthened bulletproof Maybach and rushed to the jade mine.
After driving out of Yudu, the car meanders all the way. A moment later, it arrives at a jade mine in the suburb. The jade mine is semi-open air and looks like a large-scale one.
Unfortunately, there are only a few people standing at the door of such a large jade mine, and there is a dead silence inside. However, even so, Yi Tian can imagine that in normal times, the mine was brightly lit, and pieces of jade were screened by various means, and then scattered to all parts of China. There is no doubt that such a vein, as long as it is restored to its original state, should definitely follow the saying, once the motor rings, 10,000 taels of gold, even more than 10,000 taels.
Mr. Yi, this is, haha, do you think I dare not? Walk.
But don't be scared out of your wits when you get their fat Taoist to listen to this words. The Ibid son immediately a horizontal, stare at leaf sky, aggressive big voice way. He doesn't believe that at Yi Tian's age, he can have any extraordinary strength. As for Yi Tian's killing of the Lu family, because he had been in the mine recently, arranging those exorcism arrays to seek to dig money from the Jade Emperor, he completely ignored it. Otherwise, even if he lent him 100 courage, he would not dare to be so rampant.
Then walk, wait and see. When you see it, who is scared to piss off? Yi Tian hears the sound and looks at the fat Taoist. He raises his eyebrows and smiles faintly.
The fat Taoist snorted with disdain. Then he took out his peachwood sword, which was called Millennium Thunderwood, from his back and walked towards the mine fiercely.
It's 1,000-year-old Lei Mu.
But he didn't draw out the sword. As soon as the sword was drawn out, Yi Tian's eyes lit up. The peachwood sword in the hands of the fat Taoist priest is actually made of the 1,000-year-old Lei wood.
Moreover, it is also taken from the core of Lei wood. Not only that, he even sensed a strong breath of destruction and rebirth after the thunder robbery from the thunder tree. All of this shows one thing, that is, this Lei wood is most likely inherited from the ancient mythological era. When the ancient friars passed through the thunder robbery, it was left by the spirit wood hit by the thunder. This kind of spirit wood is full of masculinity and has the power of destruction. If there is anything unclean, once it is contaminated, it will be easily eliminated. Not only that, but also it is the first-class material for making amulets. It is not only more powerful, but also because of the breath of destruction, it can infiltrate the human body and sharpen the mana and human body with the force of robbery. For example, it can be used to cut bones and wash marrow all the time, so it can improve faster.
Although he did not know why such a treasure would fall into the hands of the fat Taoist, there is no doubt that such a treasure is by no means an ordinary product. If it falls into the hands of the fat Taoist, it is absolutely a secret investment. Such a baby, how can you cast pearls in secret? Yi Tian looked at the 1,000-year-old Leisure wood. His heart was stirred. He looked at the fat Taoist priest and said with a smile, "Fat ox nose, I don't think you are convinced. Let's make a bet. Your peachwood sword is good. If you get into the mine and you're scared, you'll give me this peachwood sword. What do you think?" "Haha, I didn't expect that you are young and have good eyesight. You can also see that my peachwood sword is extraordinary. To tell you the truth, this peachwood sword is the heritage of Taoist. In my generation, it has been handed down for 99 generations. This sword is in our hands. It can kill demons and demons. I don't know how many demons and monsters it has killed. The sword comes out of its sheath. No matter what kind of mountain spirits and wild monsters you are, you have to kill evil spirits and make changes. It's absolutely the best product of the town." On hearing this, the fat Taoist priest immediately showed a proud look on his face and raised his head. After a triumphant boast, he turned the conversation and sneered, "This peachwood sword was once sold for 50 million, but the Taoist didn't sell it. You want me to bet on it, then you say, if you lose, how much money is suitable for me? You didn't sell 50 million, did you sell that one?" The leaf day hears a sound, eyebrow tip lightly a pick, light way. 100 million, fat Taoist heard Yi Tian's words, his expression suddenly changed, and he could not help but take a breath of cold air. In his eyes, he showed a strong and incomparable color of greed. It's just that he's bluffing. Someone really offered to buy this mahogany sword, but the other side was only willing to offer 500,000 yuan. He was already moved at that time. He just thought that the sword's appearance was really good. If 500,000 yuan was sold, there would be no need to eat in the future. After all, this sword is really powerful. In the past, no matter what gloomy place he went to, he had nothing to do with it. Otherwise, he would not have been invited by the Jade Emperor to help remove the anomalies in the mine. As for the so-called 50 million, it's just that he's bluffing about how he wants to shout Yi Tian to show his extraordinary. Unexpectedly, Yi Tian's tone of voice is even bigger than that of him. When he opens his mouth, it's 100 million. Haha, who can't boast? 100 million, do you think you are the Jade Emperor? Immediately after that, the fat Taoist thought that Yi Tian should be bragging. He immediately turned his lips and said, "I'm not Emperor you, but I'm better than him. If you don't believe me, you can ask him." Yi Tian shrugged his shoulders at random, looked at the fat Taoist priest, and said faintly, 100 million, for me, 9 oxen and 1 hair are not 1 hair, nothing is counted. 100 million is a lot of money, but in Yi Tian's opinion, it is nothing compared with this 1,000-year-old lei wood. At least, if he makes this piece of lei wood into a magic weapon, whether it's meant to rob thunder, he can make thunder attack magic weapon or body protection magic weapon, each of which can be sold for 10 times the price. After all, no matter how good things are, they have a price, but what can save lives is priceless. 100 million is not even a dime? Stronger than Emperor you? When the fat Taoist heard this, he was almost ready to laugh. He had seen a boaster, but he had never seen a boaster like Yi Tian. In particular, this guy is still blowing these cows in front of Emperor Yu. Thinking of this, the fat Taoist immediately looked at the Jade Emperor to see if there was any displeasure on the Jade Emperor's face at the moment. But as far as he could see, he was stunned to find that the Jade Emperor didn't even have a trace of anger on his face when he heard Yi Tian's words. Not only that, he even looked at Yi Tian with a smile, not a mocking smile, but a flattering smile. That appearance, as if, in the heart of the Jade Emperor, Yi Tian's position is indeed higher than him. How can it be? Am I hallucinating? This boy, so young, how can he have such great ability? Moreover, if he really has such a high position, why help Emperor Yu do these things? This scene makes the fat Taoist almost dull at the moment, staring at Yi Tian, unable to say a word. How's it going? Do you want to gamble with me? But at this time, Yi Tian looked at the fat Taoist priest and urged him lightly. Are you sure what you said?
Would you like to admit defeat? Fat Taoist hears the sound and stares at Yi Tian.
Immediately, word by word, he says.
Of course, I mean what I say. Emperor you can give us a witness.
Yi Tian raises eyebrow a smile, looking at Jade Emperor, Wei.
Well, I'll do the witness. If Mr. Yi fails to keep his word, I'll pay for the 100 million yuan. Emperor Yu nodded his head without thinking and said categorically.
Hiss.
Hearing this, the fat Taoist couldn't help taking a breath.
He didn't expect that Yi Tian's face was so big that he could ask Emperor Yu to protect him. He even said that if Yi Tian lost, he would compensate him for 100 million yuan.
All these, only one case, that is, the Jade Emperor believed in Yi Tian, not only that Yi Tian had the ability to give this 100 million yuan, but also that Yi Tian would not lose the competition and be able to win, otherwise, he would not say such words. But, Yi Tian, a young man, what's so extraordinary about him that he can be trusted by Emperor Yu? Bet.
Although the fat Taoist was puzzled, Emperor Yu's words made him more confident. Moreover, he believed that at Yi Tian's age, he must not have the ability to handle the anomalies in the mine.
Well, a gentleman's word is hard to follow. But I advise you that you'd better not try to cheat, or you'll regret it.
Yi Tian hears the sound, his eyes brighten, raises his eyebrows and smiles.
He looks at the fat Taoist priest and plays with the taste. If anyone repents, he will be his grandson.
Hearing this, the fat Taoist immediately raised his hand, slapped his chest to the sound of heaven, and bowed firmly to the Tao.
Go into the mine.
Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and laughed, and immediately winked at the Jade Emperor. In an instant, the group walked towards the mine, each wearing a helmet and a high-brightness searchlight. Yi Tian originally wanted Ning Shui to stay above the mine, but she insisted on going on, and Yi Tian could only let it go. Although the light of the searchlight is bright, it is dark in the mine.
You can't see your fingers. The light can only light up some areas.
Instead of being bright, it has a more sinister and frightening feeling, which is disturbing. Even if Ning Shui is a brave girl, but this scene still makes him close to Yi Tian.
Is this the working environment for jade collectors in the mine? Yi Tian looked at all this and couldn't help asking the Jade Emperor curiously.
Before, there was electricity, but unfortunately, the wires were destroyed. Jade Emperor's smell speech quickly shook his head, explained.
I see. Yi Tian suddenly said that it would be inhumane for jade miners to work in such an environment. After all, jade mining is on the surface, and it's not too deep. There's no need to worry about gas. It's okay to have electricity. Well.
But next breath, Yi Tian's brow was suddenly a wrinkle. Closely following, he toward the side of Ning Shui. Close your eyes. Ning Snow although don't understand what happened, but still honestly closed his eyes.
Close your eyes? What mystery do you make? Fat Taoist heard Yi Tian's words, and he turned his mouth unconvinced. Is it a mystery? You'll know later. Yi Tian hears the sound and smiles faintly.
He immediately sweeps the searchlight in his hand towards the front.
Shwa! The light sweeps and instantly illuminates the area ahead. Hiss-oh!
At a glance, the disdain color on the fat Taoist's face suddenly solidified. First he took a breath of cold air, and then he bent down to make a sound of retching. I saw the place where the light fell, and where my eyes could reach, the ground was covered with blood, white bones and red blood, as if it were a ferocious Shura field.